Chapter 1451. Gu Qingshan felt that he had made the right choice. As a divinity of Huang Quan, he chose the world of Huang Quan to face his tribulation on top of the Forgetting River. This was a reasonable decision. It wasn't a shortcut at all. He stood in front of the old man and smiled. "Old sir, do you think we can bear the hatchet?" The old man stared at him. He waved the Devil King Warden rod in his hand. A moment of silence. "Ah." The old man suddenly looked up at the sky and laughed. Just look, this is truly a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. I only wanted to test your character in the face of difficulties, and then?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Your Excellency is a modest gentleman, pure as jade, gentle and refined, open and upright, virtuous and noble, different from the rest of the world, pure as ice and as clean as jade." The old man shook his head, swaying along with the movement of the scepter. He quickly uttered a long string of words. So that's how it is." Gu Qingshan nodded in satisfaction. The earth sword whispered in his thoughts. "See, Shanu, Choween, perhaps you don't know, but this old man only got one thing right after praising so much. Shanu couldn't help but ask, "Which one?" As the earth sword was about to answer, it was sent flying by another sword. "Don't listen to this guy's nonsense." Luo Bingley yawned and lazily said. She had just woken up. "What's going on?" she asked. "It's a long story," Shanu slowly explained to her. On the tree, Gu Qingshan naturally knew what happened in his thoughts. See, but he couldn't be bothered to pay attention to the earth sword. Gu Qingshan looked at the old man and said, "Tell me about your life, then I'll send you to reincarnation." "Ah, thank you, fellow Tao Seeker. I'm a person of the Nanhua Tao world. I was born without a spirit root, so I had no choice." The old man spoke for a while. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan asked again, "Has anyone come to take part in the saint selection recently?" "Not all in the past few thousand years. Yellow Springs Realm is a very secluded world, and it's related to the dead, so it's not a pleasant place. That's why when we saw you, we lost our sense of propriety a bit." The elder spoke truthfully. Gu Qingshan nodded and said goodbye. He waved his sword. The vines around the old man's neck were cut off. The old man tumbled down from the tree and fell into the surging river, quickly disappearing from sight. Gu Qingshan continued to climb up the branch. The feeling that fell on his body between heaven and earth appeared again. This time, it was even stronger than the previous two times. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but stop and look at the top of the tree. The top of the tree could not be seen. The branches of the tree went all the way into the dim yellow clouds, and the end could not be seen. He walked up to the fourth hanging corpse. The corpse was also a woman. She spoke first. "Can I stay here?" "Why?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Because I like it here," the woman said. "No, because the people before you are all dead. If someone else comes here to face their tribulation, the first one to reap the benefits will be you," Gu Qingshan replied. The woman froze. Gu Qingshan asked, "But you've already hung yourself here. What will you do after you reap the benefits?" The woman hesitated and said nothing. Gu Qingshan lightly placed the Devil King Warden rod on her shoulder. "Don't worry, I don't like to threaten people. If you really don't want to tell me, I can understand," he said. The woman appeared sorrowful and muttered in a low voice, "Thank you. Then let's change the question. After being hung here as a corpse for countless years, what's there to miss?" Gu Qingshan asked. The woman replied, "This place has avoided the apocalypse. It will never be destroyed. I can always exist here." Gu Qingshan looked at her. The woman lowered her head. "It's true, I don't want to leave, but I can let you pass." "No need," Gu Qingshan replied. The woman abruptly let out a shrill scream. Her entire body turned into a mist and was sucked into the black scepter. Creak, creak, the scepter let out a soft chewing sound. The wind blew, the river flowed, but there were no other sounds on the tree. The corpses were silent. They could feel the power of the scepter. This was the power of the laws of Huang Quan, one that could decide their fate. Gu Qingshan waited until the scepter finished eating before muttering, "If anyone tries to lie to me again, they'll end up the same." One of the corpses abruptly spoke. "You're going to treat a female cultivator who can neither live nor die like this?" Gu Qingshan asked in return. "She can't even reincarnate. and you call that neither live nor die?" That corpse was speechless. Another corpse spoke up. "What if she really did this to avoid the apocalypse?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "Huang Quan can avoid the apocalypse? Who thinks that's true?" He had experienced the Huang Quan tribulation himself, so he naturally knew that the female corpse was lying to him. The corpses didn't say anything. Even now, they still couldn't figure out this person's background, so they didn't dare to take any risks. Gu Qing Shan shook his head and shouted helplessly, "Fellows, please understand the situation. This is Huang Quan, not a charity. You should at least be honest and respect this devil king. Those who don't respect me won't receive my respect." He walked past the female corpse's original position and continued to climb upwards. A few moments later, he arrived in front of another corpse. "Fellow Tao Seeker, why is there someone willing to stay on this tree?" Gu Qing Shan asked. The corpse trembled. "If no one successfully faces the tribulation for a long time, the laws of Huang Quan will gather and nourish this tree. We will also receive benefits." "What benefits?" Saying so, Gu Qing Shan lightly placed the Devil King Warden Rod on the corpse's shoulder. The corpse hurriedly replied, "We will obtain power. For the past few thousand years, we've obtained a lot of Huang Quan's unique abilities. One day, when Huang Quan is destroyed by the apocalypse, we'll be able to take this power and escape," Gu Qing Shan said. "So that's how it is. After absorbing the power of Huang Quan, you instead kill all those who attempt to face the tribulation, not allowing anyone to reach the top of the tree." The corpse appeared confused and said, "These are the rules of the tribulation, and as time passes, the stronger we become, the less likely it is for those who face the tribulation to reach the top of the tree. To be honest, even we don't know why the rules are set up this way." Gu Qing Shan thought for a bit, drew his sword, and swung it. The corpse fell into the forgetting river and disappeared. Gu Qing Shan continued to climb. He didn't ask the corpses any more questions and only continued to climb. The laws of heaven and earth continued to descend, giving him a stronger and stronger sensation. 2 hours later, he finally reached the top of the tree. This place had already passed through the layer of clouds and reached the deepest part of the sky. The wind was still blowing. A sea of clouds. Gu Qing Shan looked down. There weren't any more corpses on the tree. Deep yellow fog slowly filled the air and enveloped the entire tree. The sensation between heaven and earth had reached its peak, illuminating him like a deity. A sense of realization once again appeared in his mind. Inheritance? So, I only need to verify the inheritance when I reach the top of the tree? Gu Qing Shan muttered. "How do you intend to verify it?" The Earth Sword asked. "I remember becoming a Star River Saint requires manifesting both a spiritual heavenly tome and a virtuous karmic tome. This should be the time," Gu Qing Shan replied. He clenched his fist and unleashed ethereal Grand Mountain strike towards the sky. A few moments later, the sound of wind whistling could be heard from deep in the sky. Gu Qing Shan focused his gaze, only to see a collapsed palace falling down from the sky. The palace completely collapsed a few hundred meters away from the tree. Countless bricks and tiles scattered, but didn't fall into the sea of clouds. These bricks and tiles formed a giant face in the sky, the appearance of a one-horned demon. This demon looked down at Gu Qing Shan and spoke in a thunderous voice. "So, it was the Devil King of Huang Quan, master of the Samsara divine mountain. For you to be able to obtain the inheritance of ethereal, you must have gone through countless hardships and battles." Gu Qing Shan didn't have anything to say and could only nod in agreement. In the end, he had obtained the inheritance of ethereal in the most dangerous of situations. When he killed that monster in the Great Tomb, the war god Yui's words were, "Frowny face, you've accomplished the impossible." This is equivalent to a dust insect killing a dragon, and that monster soul-stealing was a technique of the Wraiths, which means it was the Wraith realm that had been trying to steal this inheritance. But in the end, it was obtained by Gu Qing Shan. The one-horned demon stared closely at Gu Qing Shan and spoke in a booming voice. "The identity you possess, as well as the things you've accomplished, are truly rare in this world. It seems the saint selection of Huang Quan can now end following its declaration. The entire world of Huang Quan began to collapse. In just a single second, the world of Huang Quan disappeared without a trace, as did the great tree. The only thing left in the void of space was a faint yellow bead. Gu Qingshan stood in the void of space and clasped her fist. "May I ask who you are, sir?" The one-horned demon replied. "No need to ask me. I will soon disappear from this world, but I will leave behind a strand of origin to maintain the saint selection for future cultivators." It breathed out a mouthful of faint yellow mist. The faint silhouette of the world of Huang Quan appeared again. The faint yellow bead flew straight in front of Gu Qingshan. "Take this bead. This is the true saint selection bead," the one-horned demon told her. "What exactly is going on here? Where are the Star River Saints' spiritual heavenly tome and virtuous karmic tome?" Gu Qingshan asked in confusion. The bricks on the one-horned demon's face slowly fell off, turned to dust, and disappeared. "That is a matter of normal cultivators. It has nothing to do with you. You are one of the Samsara Lords of War, qualified to participate in the new era's Samsara clash. For supremacy, the Samsara had already been broken once. Do not let it shatter again." The one-horned demon completely disappeared. Chapter 1452. As the fog rose, the pearl gave off a faint yellow light that illuminated Gu Qingshan's face. The one-horned demon's words just now contained too much information. Unfortunately, it disappeared after completing its mission and didn't explain the specifics. Gu Qingshan lightly sighed. The empty space around him slowly disappeared. The forgetting river reappeared. The great tree once again stood on top of the river. This was the Huang Quan saint selection that the one-horned demon left for future generations. As for Gu Qingshan, he had already reached the top of the great tree and completed his Star River tribulation. Gu Qingshan held the pearl in his hand, coiled his inner sight around it, and quickly refined it into his own item. In an instant, the entire world went away. He found that he had returned to the saint spirit world, standing on top of a floating piece of ice in the middle of the ocean. Lines of glowing text appeared in the void of space. "Frowny face, you've obtained the Huang Quan saint selection pearl. This is the proof of your identity as the Huang Quan Lord of War. With this pearl, you can obtain the recognition of the Samsara Huang Quan fragments and become the master of Huang Quan. The more Huang Quan fragments you fuse with, the more powerful you will become. Attention, you will need to quickly gather the Samsara Huang Quan fragments in preparation for the upcoming war." Gu Qingshan skimmed through it and understood. An indescribable sense of nervousness arose from within him. Just as Shan Hai Chi Xia had said, he also felt as if a storm was about to descend. The Samsara clash for supremacy is about to begin. But what exactly is going on with this war? When will it happen? War God Ui. Do you know the details of the Samsara clash for supremacy? Gu Qingshan asked. "I don't." The war God Ui answered without hesitation. 2,000 soul points were deducted from the UI. Gu Qingshan's eyebrows twitched. "You don't know, and you're still charging?" He held himself back, but didn't say that out loud. Heaven and earth abruptly changed. The boundless power of laws converged in the sky to form a 7-colored cloud of light that flowed down and infused into his body. Intense shockwaves. A faint yellow glow appeared on Gu Qingshan's body. Lines of notification quickly popped up on the war god UI. The Star River tribulation is over. As you successfully reach the top of the Forgetting River Divine Tree, you can absorb all of the Huang Quan origin power within the Star River tribulation. From now on, your spirit energy will slowly turn into Huang Quan origin power. Special note: you can still use soul origin power to replace Huang Quan origin power to unleash various abilities. You've obtained world origin, Huang Quan. You already have the world technique, Fog Realm Descent. So the best way to fuse world origin Huang Quan is to fuse it into your left eye. Do you agree? Agreed. Gu Qingshan said bluntly. A new line of glowing text immediately appeared. The fusion has begun. From now on, you will be able to unleash all sorts of Huang Quan elemental skills. You will soon obtain a new world technique. The new world technique will contain the properties of Huang Quan. It will take about a day for it to awaken. Please wait patiently. Reading this line of text, Gu Qingshan was quite expectant. At the time when the 7 swords were sacrificed to the infinite worlds to avoid the erasure of the 3 great laws, the infinite worlds of the past fused into Gu Qingshan's left eye. Fog Realm Descent was a world technique that Gu Qingshan had just obtained, the product of the initial fusion of the infinite worlds of the past. And now, this world technique will be imbued with the properties of Huang Quan. If I hadn't grasped a world technique, obtained the fusion of so many worlds of the past, not to mention the fact that the place of my tribulation was the most powerful saint spirit world, and that Gu Qingshan herself was the Huang Quan Devil King, she wouldn't have been able to reach the top of the Forgetting River Divine Tree at all. The current situation could only be said to be the best result that Gu Qingshan's countless efforts have been exchanged for. The Star River tribulation was finally over. Gu Qingshan clenched her fist and silently sensed the spirit energy inside her body. Sure enough, the spirit energy inside her dantian was slowly turning into a type of power that gave off a faint aura. This was a power that belonged to the samsara. It had the properties of Huang Quan and was several times stronger than spirit energy. This power, what can I use it for? Gu Qingshan silently pondered. I remember that Ethereal has a total of 4 strikes. Among them, I've already used Grand Mountain, No Pardon, and Myriad Shadows. But the final strike, Null Tribulation, I haven't used it yet due to insufficient power. Right now, the power of Huang Quan I have is equivalent to one of the samsara's powers. Perhaps I can successfully perform Null Tribulation. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan stood on top of the floating ice, took a deep breath, and clenched her fist tightly. Her power boiled and gathered on her fist. A terrifying presence manifested. Gu Qingshan's entire body was enveloped by a deep darkness. This darkness slowly turned into darkness that slowly spread towards the surface of the ocean. I'm just going to try Null Tribulation. While Gu Qingshan was muttering that, a burning sensation came from her wrist. Thousands of voices resounded in her ears. I lent you a place to use, but you want to destroy the natural environment? The spirit of the Saint Spirit world had noticed the power of Null Tribulation and appeared around Gu Qingshan again. The entire ocean was giving off a dangerous presence. Gu Qingshan froze. I've only just obtained a new power, so I've forgotten about the environment I'm in. The spirit of the Saint Spirit world was originally busy evolving. It only allowed me to face my tribulation due to the urgency of my situation. And now I'm going to attack it? Gu Qingshan hurriedly dispelled the power of Huang Quan around her body and smiled apologetically. I'm sorry. I was confused for a moment. Invisible waves began to radiate from his palm. Origin power of the soul. Ahaha. This is my gift to you, Gu Qingshan said. A second later, he felt something wrapping around his hand and sucking the invisible waves away. The soul points displayed on the War God UI was instantly deducted by 10 million. So delicious. Thank you. Countless voices resounded in Gu Qingshan's ears, filled with an unprecedented sense of intimacy. Just like that, I lost 10 million? The smile on Gu Qingshan's face froze a bit. I'll have to trouble you this time. I'll be leaving first. After you finish evolving, we'll contact each other again, he said. See, you again, the spirit of the world replied. Gu Qingshan retreated into the white fog and disappeared. On the other side, the dark cultivation world. As soon as Gu Qingshan appeared, she saw Buttercup. You finished breaking through? Buttercup asked. Yes, the attribute of my power has changed, Gu Qingshan replied. A misty, dim yellow light rose from his body. Buttercup looked at the layer of light and pondered. This seems to be much more powerful than spirit energy. Your advancement feels like you're turning into a demon. So much change? Gu Qingshan asked in surprise. That's right. Perhaps you haven't noticed yet. How about we spar for a bit? Buttercup suggested. All right. Forget it. Gu Qingshan changed her mind. Buttercup was a bit surprised and asked, why did you change your mind? Recalling what happened just now, Gu Qingshan felt a bit ashamed. You lent me a world to use and even watched over me during my tribulation, but now I'm going to hit you. It wouldn't be good if I accidentally hurt you. He could also sense that with the support of Huang Quan origin power, ethereal, his power had greatly improved. If they were to really fight, ignoring everything else, the null tribulation punch alone would definitely hurt Buttercup. Gu Qingshan was very sure of this. Buttercup silently listened, then smirked and muttered, "With your current power, you might be able to hurt me. That's why we're not fighting," Gu Qingshan replied. "It's already noon. Are you going back for lunch?" Buttercup asked. "I'm going out for a bit. I'll be back soon to make lunch," Gu Qingshan replied. "All right, I'll be waiting for you to eat," Go Buttercup said. Fog appeared around Gu Qingshan's body and enveloped him. He quickly left. Chapter 1453. The Bar. Amidst the loud music, Gu Qingshan and Crow arrived in front of the bar and sat down. "You broke through?" Crow asked. He pushed a glass of liquor to Gu Qingshan, swaying his body a bit, looking a bit seductive. "This is acting. Seems like Crow has prepared quite well during this period of time." Gu Qingshan silently thought. He received the glass and took a sip. "That's right, it took quite a long time this time, about 10 days, Gu Qingshan commented. "It's an apocalypse. Becoming stronger is always a good thing, right? Did you return to the guild yet?" Crow continued to ask. "I did. Receive a lot of the titled Hitman's items, as well as a big bag of money," Gu Qingshan replied. Crow smiled, saying, "They've managed to come into contact with the will of the Saint Spirit World. So your successful resistance against the plague apocalypse has been confirmed. So you'll naturally be rewarded generously. They did give quite a bit of money," Gu Qingshan admitted. He was also a bit pleased with this. "In short, I won't have to worry about my expenses for a long time to come." "Please," Crow exclaimed. At the time, the Allied army thought that it was an unlivable apocalypse and was scared shitless, but who could have known that you'd bring a brand new and powerful world to the space vortex? Such a generous reward wouldn't be too much. Why is everyone so happy? Gu Qingshan was a bit confused. Crow raised his glass and said, "Today's drinks are on you." "All right," Gu Qingshan replied. The two of them clinked glasses. Crow then said, "Look, we only stayed in that world for a short while before we successfully broke through." "That's right," Gu Qingshan nodded. He understood. Sure enough, Crow continued, "Now that that world has completed its rebirth, becoming the fusion of 3 powerful worlds, it will only become stronger in the future. Such a powerful world is beneficial to everyone. As long as they cultivate there like us, they'll be able to advance one step further sooner or later. Once the fusion of the worlds is complete, we'll go there again," Gu Qingshan said. At this point, the door of the bar opened as a gentle-looking man wearing a pair of glasses walked in. "You're early," Omaki said. Crow offered him a glass. "You're late, perverted duck." Omaki ignored him and turned to ask Gu Qingshan, "Did you donate the bounty from the human traffickers to the church?" "That's right, Crow was the one who killed him," Gu Qingshan replied. "The church has placed a bounty on him for a long time, but I didn't expect that you would be able to kill him." Yuan gave the 2 rings to Crow and Gu Qingshan, then explained how to use them. Crow Shan, Gu Qingshan, Crow and Shan with Crow placed the halo on top of his head, causing it to hover in place. "Dragon Qingshan, you dragon of it, I didn't." "Bye." "King, it's not me. It's a woman who likes this color," Crow replied, then winked at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan knew he was talking about Fei Yu. "This is the church's reward for you too. You're now high-ranking believers," Omaki said. Gu Qingshan was a bit hesitant as she held the light bulb. At this point, Omaki continued, "By wearing this hovering light bulb, as long as you don't provoke the City Lord's manner, you'll be able to do whatever you want in Void City. It's that impressive?" Gu Qingshan was intrigued. "That's right. The angels will only teleport to a place where there's a light bulb and attack regardless of the cost. No one is willing to fight against the angels," Crow confirmed. "That's true. The angels of the Church of Splendor have never tolerated the bullying of their believers, so they've waged several famous large-scale wars for this reason." Gu Qingshan fell into thought. "Do I really have to put this light bulb on my head during a fight? If there's something I need to do, the Church of Splendor wouldn't be able to protect me at all." Omaki then handed her 2 lists and said, "This is the church's contribution list. If you donate enough money, You can even directly summon an angel. Gu Shan took the list and saw that his title was written on it. Crow took out a coin and put it on his own list. Immediately, a copper coin was added to his donation tally. Asking for money so openly, could it be that the church is in need of money? Gu Shan couldn't help but ask. I don't know, but the church has always been interested in wealth, Omaki shrugged. At this point, the door of the bar was pushed open again. A group of people wearing Yiksha masks walked in. The one in the lead was dressed in black armor with a halberd on his back, slowly walking to the center of the bar. The other Yiksha quickly went to talk to the customers who were drinking. Through some unknown method, the customers all stood up and left the bar. Very quickly, other than Gu Shan, Crow, and Omaki, the only ones left in the bar were the Yiksha. It was now that the black-armored Yiksha turned around and looked at Gu Shan. Long time no see. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, Gu Shan nodded. I remember you, Wraithmite. Utianga, this Wraithmite was the one who was sent by the Wraith Realm to investigate Elder Du's death. Originally, he had already found Gu Shan, but due to the sudden appearance of the ominous demons, he had no choice but to run away. Utianga walked in front of the bar, standing in front of Gu Shan, and said, Dragon King, I want to have a chat with you. Have a drink before we talk. Gu Shan handed him a glass of liquor. Thank you. Utianga received the glass in surprise, then went silent for a moment. The glass of liquor in his hand was crimson red like fire, but being soaked in ice, it made one feel like taking a sip. Gu Shan raised her glass to him. Utianga had no choice but to raise his glass and take a sip. What a fine liquor, Utianga praised. The bartender cut in, Everyone, this is the most expensive liquor in our bar, as well as the one the Dragon King ordered on the spot as soon as he saw you enter. I hope that everyone can bury the hatchet and remember not to cause trouble in the bar. Utianga glanced at the bartender, then said, You guys sure are well-informed. The bar has always been well-informed. Gu Shan smiled and replied. Utianga turned to Gu Shan and pondered. From the moment I entered the bar, my presence had already been continuously accumulating. By the time everyone was chased away and I arrived in front of Gu Shan, it had already reached its peak. At this point, it was like an arrow on a bow, a sword in hand, ready to unleash a fatal strike at any moment. But the other party invited me to drink. He didn't even accept my drink, nor did he say anything, so I really can't act. And for some reason, I felt like an incantation had been cast on me, ready to fire. Without a sound, the roles of offense and defense were switched. This person, truly extraordinary. Utianga stayed silent for a few moments, then suddenly decided to use a different method to face this newly promoted titled hitman. Dragon King, what do you think about our Wraith Realm? He asked. Gu Shan replied. You're too closed off. I don't understand your world. But you're all humans. Why do you insist on wearing the masks of wraiths? The masks can give us power, Utianga replied. Gu Shan smiled. Why do all of your masks have different expressions? Some are crying, some are smiling. Utianga replied. Because to achieve the effect of a certain technique, or to achieve a certain goal, the corresponding emotions must be used as a guide, but this is only the crying or smiling of the mask, not the real you, Gu Shan replied. It doesn't matter who we are, as long as the mask is expressing itself. We only care about the result, Utianga replied. Gu Shan sighed. How regretful. What's regretful? Utianga asked. Gu Shan replied. Crying and smiling are only the surface. If you treat them as tools, you would never understand how much pain is hidden behind a smile, nor the despair that comes from crying. And these are the true sources of a cultivator's power. Utianga paused, then suddenly chuckled and said, You've studied us quite a bit. Have you been studying our Wraith Realm? I haven't, Gu Shan replied. Utianga continued. You were the one who killed Elder Du, weren't you, Dragon King? Gu Shan lowered his head to take a sip of liquor, then replied, Everything you do in Void City requires evidence, if you're going to blindly. Utianga abruptly cut him off. In truth, you are the one who killed Elder Du. I know that. I've already made the necessary preparations. The atmosphere of the bar suddenly became solemn. The wraiths had all taken out their weapons, Some of them even took out talismans. Gu Shan put his glass down and looked at him. Yu Tiangue shrugged, then muttered, "An ominous demon can't protect you at all times, Dragon King. I suggest that you surrender. That way, you might be able to keep your life." Gu Shan silently chuckled. "Should we do it?" Crow silently sent his voice and asked. "No," Gu Shan replied. "Now isn't the time. My goal is to enter the Wraith Realm, search for the Delimitation Sword, resolve the Tomb of Myriad Beast crisis, and find out the truth of everything. Let's wait a bit longer." With that in mind, Gu Shan silently took out a ring of light, turned it to white, and placed it above his head. Seeing him like that, Crow and Omaki also took out their rings of light and placed them above their heads. Crow turned his ring of light pink, while Omaki turned it red. The three of them turned their rings towards the wraiths. Pink, white, and red lights illuminated the bar. Omaki chanted an incantation. 1, 2, 3, go instantly. The three rings of light began to flicker in a certain rhythm, like neon lights. The solemn atmosphere was broken. Music, lighting, and a suitable bar had turned a leisure bar into a high bar. If the sacrificial dance wasn't asleep, Gu Shan suspected that she would have jumped up on the spot. Yu Tiangue looked at the ring of light above Gu Shan's head, then at Gu Shan. This was an angelic halo. Within Void City, if anyone dared to attack someone with an angelic halo, the angels would immediately arrive. Gu Shan raised his glass to greet Yu Tiangue. "Sorry about that, but I'm protected 24/7, he smiled and said. Chapter 1454. The music was restless. An ambiguous pink color enveloped the entire venue. The flickering lights shone on the masks, wiping away the murderous intent in the bar. Yu Tiangue replied, "Before, you were hiding under the protection of the ominous demon tower, and now you're hiding under the protection of the church. Are you that afraid of us?" Gu Shan replied in a satisfied manner, "Unless someone pays me, I won't kill. Otherwise, I'm more than willing to drink a little, cook some dishes, and live a simple life." Yu Tiangue looked at Gu Shan and felt a sense of absurdity in his heart. This assassin was actually this kind of person? According to the report, Elder Du had a small conflict with this assassin in the City Lord's mansion. Then Elder Du and the others died that very night. If Elder Du was truly killed by this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, then this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail must be a cunning and ruthless veteran. He wouldn't be acting like he was now, relying on others to protect him just because he wasn't willing to fight. Could it be that his judgment was wrong? Yu Tiangue stood there and quietly thought for a while. He was originally certain of the truth, but now it had become blurry. That was not the case. There should be two possibilities. The first possibility was that based on the assassin's reaction, his judgment was indeed wrong. The murderer was someone else. The second situation was that there must be some secret reason why Elder Du was killed by this assassin. And now, this assassin was not willing to fight head-on because he had other plans. Since that was the case, this assassin still had to be killed. Even if he wasn't the culprit, he could still use his death to announce to the entirety of Void City that this was the fate of those who dared to kill an elder of the Wraith Realm. By doing this, firstly, he would be able to wash away the Wraith Realm's humiliation, and secondly, he would be able to numb the true culprit. If the culprit was someone else, they would definitely relax because of this, which would make it easier for me to continue searching for the truth in secret. Then kill. Yu Tiangue gestured behind him and said, "Dragon King, have you ever thought about something?" "What is it?" Gu Shan asked. "If you always rely on others to protect you, you won't be able to live to the end," Yu Tiangue said. The evil creatures behind him each took out a life talisman and shouted, "Wraith Realm rotation." The bar was gone. The entire world suddenly dissipated. "Be careful. This is a world technique. They're bringing us to another world. It must be a land of killing formations that belongs to them," Crow said quickly. Gu Shan suddenly cut him off and shouted, "Crow, your prophecy." Crow also reacted quickly and corrected himself, but something suddenly went wrong with his world technique, so they couldn't bring us there. Everyone ended up in an unfamiliar world. As soon as he said so, the life talismans in the Wraith's hands were all burnt to ashes. One after another, mysterious runes appeared out of thin air, condensing into a runic array in the void. Gu Shan looked at the runic array and suddenly realized that she could actually understand it. Back in the Saint Spirit world, he obtained Red Wraith's Wicked Thoughts Burning Spirit talisman through the Jade Gourd pendant adorable. Red Wraith was one of the two rulers of the Wraith realm. His talisman mastery was already at the pinnacle of the Wraith realm. The Wicked Thoughts Burning Spirit talisman he used to deal with the Roland Emperor could be considered one of the strongest life talismans. Gu Shan had to spend a total of 100 million soul points to use War God skills to completely deconstruct this Wicked Thoughts Burning Spirit and thoroughly comprehend the Wraith Realm's life talisman technique. At this point, he had already fully understood the majority of the Wraith Realm's talisman techniques. It was for the sake of understanding the Wraith's life talisman that he didn't resist at all, allowing Red Wraith to unleash Wicked Thoughts Burning Spirit. Now it was time to harvest. Gu Shan suddenly raised her hand and drew a faint yellow light in the air with her finger. The radiance was like a dragon or a snake, instantly condensing into a rune. The rune dimmed and quickly disintegrated. After all, this was his first time constructing a rune, and he had failed. Gu Shan's heart sank. Her hand moved as fast as an afterimage as she drew another rune. The rune shot out a bright yellow light. Success. On the other side, Yu Tiangue cried out as if he had seen a ghost. Impossible. The rune that Gu Shan drew vanished into thin air and reappeared in the middle of the rune formation. The entire rune formation began to distort. The fluctuations it gave off also became unstable. Oh no, Sir Wraithmite, the teleportation had deviated a bit, a wraith loudly shouted. While it took a long time to describe, everything happened in the blink of an eye. A second later, heaven and earth turned upside down. Heavy impacts resounded. Everyone fell to the ground, then quickly struggled to stand back up. Their surroundings were filled with lush greenery. Towering trees filled their entire vision. Occasionally, small animals would run away in fear from where they were. This was a completely unfamiliar world. Yu Tiangue stood on top of a tree, looking at Gu Shan and Crow. The hitman with the title of Curt Death Silver Crow had actually spoken the truth. Compared to that, what was even more unbelievable was that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail had actually grasped life talisman techniques. And it was an extremely profound life talisman technique capable of altering the entire rune formation with a single rune. It wasn't just Yu Tiangue, the other wraiths had also noticed this. They fell into a strange silence. On the other side, Gu Shan was a bit displeased. Life Talisman was originally a trump card he prepared to use against the Wraith Realm, but now he had no choice but to use it first. It was truly dangerous just now. The warp formation that the Wraith set up must have already been filled with numerous killing formations. Once I, Crow, and Omaki were transported there, the chances of us surviving would be very slim. Life Talisman techniques were extremely fast and full of variations, making them extremely difficult to defend against and break through. That was why he had no choice but to use Life Talisman techniques. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared from the void of space. Frowny face, you've performed Life Talisman techniques. Life Talisman techniques require the vitality of others to be used as a catalyst. Using soul points instead of vitality to perform this Life Talisman consumes a total of 500 soul points. Gu Shan sighed in relief. I have around 200 million soul points right now, so I can afford to spend 500 soul points. Yu Tiangue's voice resounded. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, I know your background very well. You are a fear fiend from the 900 million world layers who came to Void City after saving a director of the Hitman Guild, as well as the guild's assets. Intense killing intent abruptly erupted from his body. Originally, killing Elder Dew was already a major matter, but I didn't think you'd also know Life Talisman techniques. This is a talisman technique unique to our Wraith realm. How did you learn it? Gu Qingshan sighed and said nothing. Who would have thought things would develop to this point? Yu Tian gestured behind him. All the wraiths put their life talismans away and drew their weapons. Speak, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. This is your final chance. Yu Tian drew the halberd on his back and said, You want to kill me? Gu Qingshan asked. Although this is an unfamiliar world, this place is far from Void City, so none of the ominous fiends, angels, or the Hitman Guild will be able to protect you, Yu Tian replied. At this point, Yu Tian couldn't help but recall how he was patted on the shoulder by a group of burly men. Now, there's finally no one who can help you. Feeling vindicated, Yu Tian mocked. A guy who only knows how to hide behind others, with no one to protect you. The only thing you can do is die. Gu Qingshan went silent for a split second. Let's talk later. I need to do something first, Gu Qingshan said. He abruptly drew a sword and slashed at his two companions next to him. You dare ambush me? Crow was furious and casually drew his rapier to receive the attack. Omaki also casually unleashed his frigid frost aura to attack Gu Qingshan. The three of them clashed with all their might, attacking and defending at the same time. The battle had already reached its climax. Yu Tian was surprised. What's going on? Why are they fighting among themselves? The wraiths all stared blankly at this. Sir, what do we do now? One of the wraiths silently asked. Yu Tian fell silent, feeling an indescribable emotion in his heart that was slowly becoming unbearable. This Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, one moment drinking with you, the next placing a light bulb on his head, then casually unleashing a life talisman. And now, he's actually fighting against his companions. Even if you ask me, I wouldn't know what to do right now. Yu Tian calmed his emotions, then suddenly had a thought. Life talismans are the foundation of Sir Wraith Saint. Since this person has a life talisman technique, perhaps he's related to Sir Wraith Saint in some way? Yu Tian turned to look at the other side, only to see that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail was attacking another hitman and the librarian. Perhaps there's something he can't let these two know about? With that in mind, Yu Tian ordered, Let's stay put for now and observe the situation. Yes, sir, the wraith stayed put and silently watched the three of them fight. They fought back and forth, shouting and shouting, fighting to their heart's content. A few dozen moments later, suddenly, a series of dragon roars resounded in the sky. A giant dragon descended from the sky. I can sense that someone is fighting against the heir of our dragon head boss. Are they trying to provoke our dragon race? The dragon spoke in a thunderous voice. Chapter 1455. As soon as the dragon spoke, Yu Tian had already prepared himself for battle. We have a few dozen wraiths on our side. If it was only a single dragon, then there's no need to panic. In the next second, another giant dragon appeared out of thin air and stared at everyone with a silly look in its eyes. It looked around and murmured, I'm not sure. What happened here? Why is this place filled with boundless killing intent and the omens of death? The clouds in the sky want to rain. The trees on the ground want to bloom. All of you came from so far away just to fight in this place, it began to sing. The wraiths froze. Is this dragon stupid? All of a sudden, another dragon descended from above. You know he's our big bro's successor, yet you still dare to bully him here. You really are looking down on us dragons, this dragon angrily declared. More and more dragons descended, crouching on top of the forest, staring at Gu Qingshan. 1, 2, 3, a total of 29 dragons. This was an overwhelming force. Gu Qingshan finally put her sword away, tapped her inventory bag, took out a few bottles of liquor, and tossed them to Crow and Omaki. My throat is a bit thirsty after all that fighting, he said. Lines of glowing text hovered in the void of space in front of him. You've equipped the title, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. You're currently fighting. You're the successor of the dragon ancestor. Your battle will be sensed by the dragons nearby. They might come to help. Attention, the first dragon is approaching. Attention, the second dragon is approaching. Gu Qingshan stopped reading the combat description and drank from the bottle. Crow also opened the bottle, took a gulp, and said, "So the reason you were buying time was to complete this summoning technique," Yuan said with relief. "We're safe now." The three of them turned to the wraiths. Guqing Shan told Yu Tiangui, "Look, we're not in Void City right now, but I still have someone to protect me." Yu Tiangui held a life talisman in his hand, but couldn't activate it no matter what. He took out another talisman and held it in his hand. He cast a spell and shouted, "All the techniques appear." The life talisman burned and formed two special runes in the air. When Yu Tiangui saw those two special runes, his expression changed. World forbidding spirit formation curse. Isolation barrier incantation. At some point in time, he had actually been surrounded by these two divine incantations. When did this happen? Yu Tiangui fell into confusion. His SOS talisman could not be sent out. He had been very vigilant just now, but he didn't even see the person who attacked. When did it happen? Who was it that set up the forbidding spirit formation in the surroundings? Yu Tiangui was speechless. At this moment, he suddenly felt regret. If only the Ghost Lord had not arranged for him to do this. Just as he was thinking, he suddenly heard a giant dragon roar at Guqing Shan. "Who wants to protect you? I have enmity with the dragon ancestor, so I came here specifically to kill you." "Me too. Me too. Me too. Yes, kill him. Count me in." The dozen dragons roared in unison. The other dozen dragons stood in front of Guqing Shan's group, angrily shouting, "You can't kill him. He's the heir of the dragon ancestor." The dragons were at a stalemate, their killing intent growing stronger and stronger. Yu Tiangui suddenly saw hope. So many of these dragons were here to kill him. He silently counted and found that the majority of the dragons wanted to kill Guqing Shan. "That's good." Yu Tiangui excitedly raised his arms. Everyone, everyone! We wraiths also want to kill the heir of the dragon ancestor. We can fight together." The dragons who wanted to kill Guqing Shan quickly retreated to stand next to the wraiths. "Who are you?" one of the dragons asked in a low voice. "I am Yu Tiangui from the Wraith Realm, ordered to kill this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail," Yu Tiangui replied. "Yu Tiangui?" another dragon asked. "Yes, as long as you help us stall those dragons, we will kill this Dragon King of Atrocity Jail," Yu Tiangui replied. "You called yourself Yu Tiangui. You aren't just bluffing, are you? Are you sure you can kill that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail?" another dragon asked. "No problem," Yu Tiangui replied. The dragons exchanged glances, then nodded. "Very well, you're in," the leading dragon said. "Later on, we'll first use draconic magic to attack. That's an extremely powerful attack, so don't act for now to avoid accidental injury." "I understand," Yu Tiangui replied. He was feeling a bit more confident, as well as a bit expectant. Very few people have ever seen a dragon's draconic magic. All records regarding draconic magic in the history books have been censored by the dragons. Dragons are sly creatures. Most of the time, you wouldn't even know how they attacked you. And now that the dragon's battle is right in front of me, I can finally dash pa. "You lot, listen to me carefully." A voice resounded in the sky, cutting off Yu Tiangui's thoughts. He looked up. The dragons on the other side were all cursing at him. "Pa, I was woken up at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. Turns out someone was bullying a dragon," one of the dragons said. A second dragon replied, "I opened my sleepy eyes and barely managed to get closer to take a closer look, but you were all wearing masks and cowering like turtles," a third dragon roared. You even need help to fight. You're all cowards. Don't you dare act so presumptuously in front of me." In front of them, among the dragons who wanted to kill Guqing Shan, a dragon appeared and chanted. The dragons behind him all raised their voices and chanted. "You're all pretending to talk nonsense, but you're actually harboring ulterior motives. Others might not dare to expose you, but I think you're just unlucky." One of the dragons from before immediately rushed out and angrily shouted, "Bullshit." He cleared his throat and shouted, "You lot, come forward and listen to me." After chanting a bunch of chants like a machine gun, he satisfyingly retreated. He was satisfied, but the dragons on the other side were having none of it. Another dragon immediately flew out, uttered a "pa," and began to curse. Seeing this, Gu Shan silently grabbed Crow and Omaki's hands and said, "Let's retreat a bit." Crow wielded his rapier, ready to fight at any moment. But the dragons in the sky were still cursing, so he couldn't just charge forward like this. "What's going on?" Omaki was a bit confused and asked. "Just wait," Gu Shan replied. On his retina, lines of combat instructions appeared one after another. Make the following records of the battlefield: Frost Dragon, Unleash Shadow, Ice Dragon, Origin Hex. Emerald Dragon, Unleash Shadow, Green Dragon, Origin Hex. Phantom Dragon, Unleash Shadow, Purple Dragon, Origin Hex. Holy Light Dragon, Unleash Shadow, White Dragon, Origin Hex. Demonic Flame Dragon, Unleash Shadow, Blue Dragon, Origin Hex. Silver Dragon, Unleash Shadow, Golden Dragon, Origin Hex. Lightning Dragon, Unleashed. All Dragon Hex to be used on the Wraiths. Time slowly passed. 10 minutes quickly passed. The three of them suddenly felt their vision blurring. They had returned to the bar. Everything remained the same, but the Wraiths didn't show up again. This time, Crow was also confused. "Hey, do you know what's going on?" He silently sent his voice to Gu Shan. "Not sure. Most likely the way the dragons fight is an internal secret that they don't want us to see," Gu Shan also whispered. Crow doubtfully asked, "Weren't those dragons shouting and cursing so loudly that they were about to start fighting?" Gu Shan shook her head. "They're tricking the Wraiths." Chapter 1456. The Wraith Realm. On a craggy, grotesque mountain, countless wraiths surrounded them from the foot of the mountain all the way to the top. There was nothing else on top of the mountain except for a formation that was inlaid with black rocks that were densely packed with runes. The wraiths surrounded the formation, ready for battle. No one said anything. The entire mountain was deathly silent and suffused with a murderous aura. Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky and stood in front of the formation. "The Ghost Lord sent me to ask how things are going." Another wraith stepped forward and knelt on one knee. "Sir Tiangue is currently searching for him. Most likely he has already found Dragon King of Atrocity Jail," the figure said. "Is the Divine Soul Imprisonment Formation ready?" That Dragon King of Atrocity Jail is a titled hitman. So not only did we prepare a soul vessel sealing formation, we also prepared several dozen shackle formations, all of which were given to Sir Tiangue's subordinates. The figure spoke with satisfaction. "That's very good. The laws of Soul Eradication Mountain were personally established by Sir Wraithsane himself, so there are very few accidents. Dragon King of Atrocity Jail would most likely be captured and executed on the spot in just a few moments," the malevolent ghost said. "We guard the Soul Extermination Mountain and have killed countless experts from various worlds. Please rest assured, my lord." "Ah, very well. I'll just wait here for a bit. Once you've taken Dragon King of Atrocity Jail's head, I'll bring it back to report. Then please wait for a moment, my lord." "Yes." Saying so, the figure and the other wraiths held their breaths and waited. A quarter of an hour passed. Half an hour passed. The figure couldn't help but ask, "Why is Tiangue so slow?" Someone replied, "There's something you don't know, sir, but that Dragon King of Atrocity Jail is on good terms with the ominous Demon Tower. Perhaps because he's currently a guest in the ominous Demon Tower, Tiangue couldn't act against him. We can only wait until he leaves the ominous Demon Tower." The figure pondered for a moment and nodded. The other forces in Void City were fine, but this ominous Demon Tower was too disgusting. They have a particularly disgusting way of doing it. That method was truly terrifying. The figure sighed, then said, "Very well, I'll wait a bit longer, but none of you can be complacent. That Dragon King of Atrocity Jail has many tricks up his sleeves. I want you to kill him as soon as you appear," the evil spirits shouted in unison. "Yes, sir." Time slowly passed. The moon rose and the sun set. One day passed. The figure abruptly shouted, "It has already been a day. Why do we wait here for an entire day? Something's wrong." The wraiths also awoke from their daze. "Sir, we'll contact Ghost Might Tiangue right away." "Not good, sir. We can't contact him. I can't get in touch with his followers either. Quick, report to the Wraith Lord." The wraiths were all busy. Let's rewind time a little. In reality, Yu Tiangue had already found Gu Qingshan when the figure had just arrived at Spirit Destruction Mountain. Their teleportation was interrupted by Crow and Gu Qingshan, and they were both teleported to an unknown world. The dragon race appeared and began to curse. Following that, Gu Qingshan, Crow, and Omaki returned to the bar. "You're saying that the dragons were deceiving those wraiths?" Crow doubtfully asked. "Yes, I think so," Gu Qingshan said. Omaki said disappointedly, "How regretful. Even our library doesn't have any records of the dragon race's battles. It's quite mysterious," Crow followed up. "That's right, I also want to see what the dragon race's battles are like. Just thinking about it is enough to tell how heroic it would be." Gu Qingshan's lips twitched. "Forget it, I guarantee that you won't want to see it." There was no one else in the bar at this point, only the three bartenders. They were looking at Gu Qingshan's group with a strange gaze. These people managed to escape the wraith's clutches. What a shocking piece of news. While they were thinking, someone suddenly pushed open the door of the bar. A man wearing a black cap, a pair of sunglasses on his nose, a mask over his mouth, and a black casual outfit walked in. With such attire, it was impossible to see what he looked like at all. "Welcome," one of the bartenders said. The man walked up to the bar counter, took out a piece of paper, and muttered, "Duke Dian Kong, gold card." The three bartenders all froze. It's me, sir. What business do you have with us?" They all spoke in unison. A ball of flame appeared in the man's hand, burning the piece of paper to ashes. "It's nothing. It took us quite a bit of effort to obtain your names." After saying so, he suddenly clapped his hands. The three bartenders instantly stopped moving, as if they had turned into statues. The man continued, "By your names, I vow to forget the memories I have designated." The three bartenders' bodies went limp and fell to the ground. At this point, the man nodded to Gu Qingshan and said, "There's no need for you to worry about the wraiths." His voice suddenly turned into a female voice. "I really can't tell if he's a man or a woman. This disguise and way of doing things is too cautious." Gu Qingshan immediately had an answer. "Dragon. This person is a dragon." Gu Qingshan curiously asked, "How did you deal with it?" The man replied, "The wraiths all have various tracking techniques on them, so they'll be summoned back after death. Killing them is the same as letting them go, so we sealed all the techniques on them, turned them into several dozen grains of sand, scattered them in different directions, and randomly tossed them into the space vortex." Gu Qingshan was a bit speechless. These dragons were simply too cautious. The space vortex is so vast that it could contain countless worlds, so searching for a few dozen grains of sand in the space vortex is countless times harder than looking for a needle in a haystack. The man continued, "We then used the aftermath of the talisman formations on their bodies to cast a curse of stupidity. Anyone affected by the curse would become stupid for an entire day, so the wraiths waiting at the warp formation must have been affected as well." Gu Qingshan clasped her fist. "Please help me thank the friends who helped us." "Thank you for your help. No need to be so formal. Our identities are hidden, so the wraiths won't be able to find us from now on. You, on the other hand, need to be careful from now on. Try not to provoke these wraiths," the man told her. Saying so, he turned around and prepared to leave. At this point, Crow couldn't help but ask, "You're a dragon? You actually turned those wraiths into sand?" The man froze. He looked at Crow and was shocked by Crow's beauty. "So handsome." The man spoke with a female voice. She took off her sunglasses to reveal a pair of beautiful silver eyes, then asked Crow, "What? Do you have something to say?" "I don't have anything to say, but I'm actually quite curious to see how you subdued those wraiths," Crow honestly replied. Standing on one side, Omaki also displayed an eager expression. The woman then turned to Gu Qingshan and asked in surprise, "You didn't tell me?" Gu Qingshan shrugged and replied, "I thought that was a secret of our dragon race." The woman appeared pleased and patted his shoulder. "That's right, we used underhanded means, tripped people up, hit them with a wooden club, cursed and killed people. But we did it for justice, didn't we?" Gu Qingshan hurriedly nodded, praising. "That's right." The woman put her sunglasses back on and said, "I'll warn you again, stay away from the wraiths. They seem to have fallen into some sort of madness. Our dragon race has always kept our distance from them." "Got it," Gu Qingshan replied. The woman nodded to him, then turned around and left the bar. After she left, the three bartenders quickly regained their senses and staggered to stand up. What happened? I'm not sure. I only remember that I was sleeping very soundly. Huh? Why aren't there any customers in the bar today? The bartenders asked in confusion. In front of them, the only customers in the bar were Guqing Shan, Omaki, and Crow. Chapter 1457. Neon lights flickered. The music in the bar continued to play. The bartenders all had confused expressions, not knowing what exactly happened. Let's go. Guqing Shan stood up and left the bar. Crow and Omaki followed. The three of them left the bar and walked on the deserted street of the night. Omaki casually set up a soundproof barrier, then told Guqing Shan, "Those wraiths came to kill you, but you're completely unscathed while they all disappeared. This is a huge problem," Guqing Shan replied. "That's why that dragon just now kept telling me to hide," Crow asked. "What do you plan to do?" "I haven't decided yet," Guqing Shan replied. Crow was a bit surprised and said, "That's not like you. You should know that wraiths never give up halfway, especially when it comes to killing people. They've already lost a lot of people, so they definitely won't give up." Before Guqing Shan could say anything, Omaki said, "That chick just now said that the wraiths on the other side have most likely been afflicted by the dragon hex, so they won't have any issues for at least a day. Then we still need to think of a solution," Crow signaled with his eyes. He was part of Fei Yu's plan, so he knew about Guqing Shan's true intentions. Guqing Shan nodded and replied, "I'm thinking at this point," Omaki suddenly said. "Ever since returning from the Saint Spirit world, I've been feeling like I'm about to break through. What about you too?" Guqing Shan and Crow exchanged glances and smiled. "Perverted duck, my curt death Silver Crow has already broken through. The same goes for the Dragon King," Crow pridefully said. Omaki was a bit surprised, then said with a bit of frustration, "And here I thought I was the fastest. Speaking of which, did you two obtain any new abilities?" Guqing Shan thought about how her world technique was still in the process of breaking through, so she shook her head. Crow, on the other hand, excitedly said, "My fortune-seeking and calamity-avoiding technique has improved greatly. The timeline I can foresee has become longer, and the future I can foresee has also become more accurate. Furthermore, I seem to have obtained a new divination technique." "A new divination technique? Amazing," Omaki praised. Crow slowly stopped. He thought that he should go look for Fei Yu, so he said to Guqing Shan and Omaki, "I have to go back too." Omaki said, "Return to the Hitman Guild?" Crow laughed and was about to say something when he noticed Guqing Shan's vague gaze. "That's right, this is a highly confidential matter. I can't casually talk about it." Crow abruptly corrected himself. "That's right, recently there was a new receptionist at the front desk of the guild. She's quite a beauty." "Oh, more beautiful than you when you were a woman?" Yuan's interest was piqued. "Of course not," Crow immediately replied. "If that's the case, I won't be joining in the fun." Omaki waved his hand and walked forward. "Where are you going?" Guqing Shan asked. "Where else can I go?" "Back to the library. I still have a lot of research topics to follow up on," Omaki said helplessly. "See you later." "See you later." Yuan's figure flashed, speeding towards the distance, and disappeared very soon. Crow and Guqing Shan stood in the darkness, watching him leave. "Aren't you going to involve him? He's quite knowledgeable after all," Crow asked. "There's no need. He's still a bit lacking in terms of combat. If I insist on involving him in the fight against the wraiths, his life would be in danger," Guqing Shan replied. "That's true. I agree with your point," Crow agreed. "You're going to where Fei Yu is?" Guqing Shan asked. "That's right. I'm leaving right now. If there's anything, come find me at the City Lord's Manor," Crow replied. "It's nothing," Guqing Shan smiled and casually said. "If I don't want the wraiths to find me, they won't be able to find me." Crow recalled Guqing Shan's Fog Realm descent and chuckled. "It's best if you go to a few more worlds. That way you'll be able to run away at any time." After saying that, just as Guqing Shan was about to reply, Crow's eyes were staring straight at him with a terrifying expression. It was as if he was looking at a monstrous corpse. "What is it?" Guqing Shan couldn't help but ask. Crow stared at him without saying a word. Countless black feathers manifested around his body and enveloped him. Crow began to speak, his voice resembling the sharp sound of metal scraping against metal. The great flood is coming. The entirety of Void City will have nowhere to run. Everyone who goes against the wraiths will die, without a place to be buried. And you, Gu Qing Shan, if you don't see that coming, you will only welcome your death. As soon as he said so, all the supernatural phenomena disappeared. Crow's expression returned to normal and grinned. All right, I'll be going first. See you later. Wait a minute. Gu Qing Shan pulled him back. Crow was confused and asked, What is it? What did you say just now? Gu Qing Shan asked, Did I say something just now? Crow was confused. He quickly realized and joyfully said, Ah, right, I've grasped the second fortune-seeking avoidance technique. Sometimes I can say things that even I don't know about. Gu Qing Shan froze for a split second. A line of glowing text slowly appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face, you've been affected by the power of prophecy. Graveyard. Graveyard. Able to accurately foresee the large-scale deaths that are about to occur. Gu Qing Shan's heart sank. Crow's original ability was Tombstone, which allowed him to alter the course of fate. Fortunately, this ability was still under Crow's control, allowing him to temporarily alter his words to correct the outcome. And now, Crow had another type of prophecy ability, Dash Graveyard. Can't be altered. It can foresee the true future. Gu Qing Shan's thoughts quickly turned. Just now, Crow said that anyone who goes against the wraiths will die without a proper burial. Then, this apocalypse known as the Great Flood is actually under the wraith's control? Gu Qing Shan stopped and asked, Crow, what is the Great Flood? Crow's expression changed and hurriedly asked, Did I just say something about the Great Flood? Yes, Gu Qing Shan repeated Crow's words. Crow froze, then said after a long while, The Great Flood is a true unlivable apocalypse. Unlivable apocalypse. An apocalypse that no one could survive. Among the countless geniuses in history, the countless heroes of the Void, not a single one of them managed to survive this apocalypse. The previous plague apocalypse was only unsolvable, far inferior to the current situation. Gu Qing Shan's heart sank to the bottom. The wraiths have such power. How exactly do they do it? Crow, immediately tell this to Fei Yu. She's knowledgeable and powerful, so she'll definitely have a solution, Gu Qing Shan immediately said. Got it. Crow understood the severity of the situation, so he vanished without a trace right after saying so. Gu Qing Shan entered the white fog and left the street. He directly appeared in the small brick house. What's the matter? You don't look too good, Buttercup asked. Something happened. I need to confirm it again, Gu Qing Shan replied. In front of Buttercup, he took out the colorful rooster statue. Buttercup was surprised. What is this? Gu Qing Shan didn't say anything and pulled on the rooster's comb. The colorful rooster regained its senses. This time, it didn't yawn, instead appearing extremely nervous. Gu Qing Shan, hurry. Give me soul points. I need to tell you something right now. How much? 100,000. Gu Qing Shan transferred her soul points over without hesitation. Receiving the soul points, the colorful rooster let out a long cry before speaking. Gu Qing Shan, your identity has been exposed. The wraiths know your true identity. They know that you came from the future. How could that be? Who exposed my identity? Gu Qing Shan immediately asked. I'm not sure, but you already know that the Great Flood is about to erupt, so the only thing I can tell you is that there's a spy by your side. He's betrayed you, so you'll soon fall into certain death. Saying so, the colorful rooster turned back into a statue and stopped moving. Gu Qing Shan abruptly turned to Buttercup. Buttercup calmly asked, Are you suspecting me? I'm not. Gu Qing Shan walked up to her and said, Crow predicted the Great Flood, and there's currently a spy by my side. I want you to immediately find Fei Yu. She's a Fate artifact master, as well as the strongest person in Void City. Wait for me at her place. I'll come find you in a bit. And then what? Buttercup asked. And then we'll have to run. An unlivable apocalypse isn't a joke, Gu Qing Shan replied. Why aren't you suspecting me? Buttercup asked. HM, why would I suspect you? Gu Qing Shan asked in surprise. Buttercup stared at him for a while before replying. All right, I'll have to go find the Tower Master first. Do you mind? I don't mind. Do as you wish. We'll meet at the City Lord's Manor in a bit. Hurry. Gu Qingshan said. Little Butterfly nodded and disappeared from where she stood. The only person left in the room was Gu Qingshan. Standing in the darkness, he recalled everything that had happened since he arrived at Void City. There were only two people who knew so much about him. One was Crow, and the other was Omaki. Crow knew his real name. Omaki didn't know. Could it be Crow? No. Crow's expression didn't change at all even after learning about his prophecy. He even went to the City Lord's Manor, as I requested. At this point, I could have used Fog Realm Descent to escape. If it was Crow, he wouldn't have made such a mistake. Or Omaki? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, but couldn't help but feel confused. Knowing that I would use Fog Realm Descent, he was still confident that he could kill me, unless he took out the Ring of Light and checked it again. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI, frowny face, hovering ring-shaped light bulb, technological product, capable of emitting 7 different lights, capable of detecting the environment, observing the state of battle, as well as summoning angels. Reading this line of text, Gu Qingshan pondered. He probably wasn't being controlled, but rather standing on the side of the wraiths. No, I have to find out the truth. Gu Qingshan turned around and entered the white fog. At another location, the Church of Splendor, Omaki entered the main hall and followed the 2 angels through the various buildings. Finally, he arrived at a building at the deepest part of the church. The 6 angels came forward and knelt down on one knee to greet him. Holy Son, you've returned, they spoke in unison. Boundless holy light radiated from Omaki's body as a pair of pure white wings appeared on his back. He coldly nodded and said, among the church's donors, there's a person called Dragon King of Atrocity Jail. You should discuss with the wraiths and kill him. Understood. Chapter 1458. The Wraith Realm. The Wraith Temple. Deep inside the silent temple, 3 statues stood in order, completely motionless. These were the statues of the 3 Wraith Lords. They stood here as if they were protecting something or waiting for someone. Suddenly, one of the statues spoke up. It's been half an hour, but there's still no news from Soul Eradication Mountain. Most likely a failure, another statue spoke up. Our Soul Eradication Mountain's formation hasn't had any issues for the last 500 years. It seems that Hitman's foundation is quite deep. The final statue spoke up. How about we do it ourselves? And its voice was abruptly cut off. The sound of a bell resounded from the void of space, cutting off the 3 Wraith Lords' conversation. Ding dong, 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 ding dong. A total of 6 chimes reverberated throughout the dark temple. The Wraith Temple abruptly disappeared, replaced by a new world. There was no sun in the sky, but a faint white light radiated from a towering statue that reached all the way to the clouds, illuminating the entire world. Around the 3 Wraith Lords, there was a lush green meadow, countless fragrant flowers, a clear fountain, as well as countless ivory-white minarets. A 4-winged angel descended from above, arriving in front of the 3 Wraith Lords. The 4-winged angel lightly bowed, then spoke. Greetings, Wraith Lord Fate Obstruction, Giant Frame, and Wraith Lord Karmic Fire. I'm here in the Holy Sun's orders to report a certain matter. The 3 Wraith Lords returned the greeting. Please speak, the 4-winged angel spoke. The Holy Sun told me to inform you that the titled hitman had recognized a sword in his hand. It was the Earth Sword of the twin swords Heaven and Earth. This person's identity can be confirmed, but there was a hint of space-time fluctuation coming from his body. The Holy Sun was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle this properly, so he specifically ordered me to lead everyone here to lend you a hand. Wraith Lord Fate Obstruction spoke. The twin swords Heaven and Earth. Strange. These 2 swords should currently be within the 900 million world layers, under the surveillance of the eternal abyss and the awaitings of order and chaos. How could they? Wraith Lord Giant Frame spoke. There is no problem with this. I also remember that the twin swords are still within the 900 million world layers, unless, Wraith Lord Karmic Fire said, unless this assassin came from the past or the future. The angel's expression was cold as she continued. According to our intelligence, Fei Yu of the Void has already met with this person. This is something that cannot be allowed to happen. To prevent this person from affecting our true plan, I will lead the angels and the three Wraith Lords to eliminate this person. Void City. Gu Shan stood in the lobby of the library and waited for a while. "You're looking for me?" A voice rang out. Gu Shan looked in the direction of the voice and saw an unfamiliar middle-aged man standing not too far away. His expression was a little nervous. "You are?" Gu Shan asked. The middle-aged man replied, "This humble one is Omaki, a researcher in Void City's library. They said that a titled hitman was looking for me." Gu Shan looked at him and fell silent. He had never seen this person before. "Not too long ago, did you go to fight against the Saint Spirit World's plague apocalypse?" Gu Shan asked. The middle-aged man lowered his head and hesitantly answered, "At the time, I was doing an experiment, but something went wrong and I fell unconscious, only waking up yesterday." Gu Shan looked at him, slightly released her killing intent, and asked in a low voice, "Can you guarantee that you're telling the truth?" The middle-aged man sighed and tiredly answered, "Indeed, I had indeed lost my ID card. As soon as I found out that I participated in that war and survived, I immediately knew that someone was impersonating me. But what could I say? If that person was able to steal my ID card without anyone noticing, it wouldn't be too hard for him to take my life, so I naturally couldn't tell anyone. This person was wearing a pair of thick glasses. His expression was one of discomfort from talking to someone. His expression was tense and stiff. His strength was also much weaker than the Omaki I knew." He wasn't lying. Even Gu Shan could instinctively come to this conclusion. Have you ever come into contact with the church?" Gu Shan pondered and asked. "The church?" The middle-aged man's expression glowed with a different kind of light, then began to speak. "I'm a loyal believer. The Church of Splendor is extremely powerful. They have always protected a powerless person like me who only focuses on research, even providing us with funds and protection, right? Are you also a believer?" The middle-aged man asked. Gu Shan went silent for a split second. He was about to leave just now, but the middle-aged man's final words successfully drew his attention. "I'm a believer. Take a look." Saying so, Gu Shan took out the circular light tube. "A saint-chosen believer. My apologies. It turns out your position is much higher than mine," the middle-aged man exclaimed in surprise. "Do you know what this represents?" Gu Shan asked. "Of course. Only the most staunch believers would know about this halo, and I happen to be qualified." The middle-aged man's expression became a bit more respectful. He even performed a holy salute to Gu Shan while staring at the ring of light. Gu Shan's thoughts quickly turned. This halo that was used to track and locate him had now turned around to prove his identity as a believer. "Do you care about this a lot?" Gu Shan asked. "That's right. This is a kind of proof that can be shown to the church in exchange for more research funds," the middle-aged man truthfully replied. "Then do you know how many believers of the church are in Void City's library?" Gu Shan asked. The middle-aged man was still staring at the halo and answered, "I only know that there are a few people in my field of study. I rarely come into contact with researchers from other fields, so I don't know who else is a believer." "What kind of research do you do in your field of study?" Gu Shan asked. The middle-aged man replied, "We study the world within the void and its related content." Gu Shan fell into thought. The person who impersonated Omaki didn't kill him to silence him. This means that the real Omaki still has a certain amount of value. "Pardon me for asking, but what is your field of study?" Gu Shan asked. "Me?" The middle-aged man puffed out his chest and pridefully answered, "I study the history of war between multiple worlds." History of war between multiple worlds? Gu Shan silently remembered this term. "You must be the best in this field," he flattered. "Aha! Don't say that. There are actually a few other experts who are also quite skilled in this field. Although they're still a bit lacking compared to me," the middle-aged man embarrassedly replied. Gu Shan silently nodded. This is a person who is obsessed with scientific research and doesn't understand the ways of the world. "Here, this is for you. Remember, Never tell anyone that you were impersonated. This is for your own good. Saying so, Gu Qing manifested a white fog around her body and vanished in front of the man's eyes. The middle-aged man was a bit surprised and looked at his hand. Just now, he gave me the circular light tube. This is great. With this proof, I'll have enough resources for my next research. As he spoke, he put away the lamp ecstatically. Deep into the night, an orange cat was quickly running under the cover of the night. The orange cat flew through the tall buildings of the city, only taking a few moments to find his destination. He lightly landed on the cold street and looked at the buildings in front of him. The church was right in front of him. It was currently late at night, so the believers had already left. The church was also very quiet. Only a few angels could be heard singing hymns. Do you want to silently infiltrate and investigate? The Earth Sword's voice resounded. The orange cat replied, No, the great flood is about to descend, and I'll die before that happens. We don't have time to slowly investigate. Then what now? I'm almost certain that this was the church's handiwork. And now, I need to force that person out. The orange cat raised his paw and swung forward. An excited woo-woo sound resounded from the void of space. A sprite of light about the size of a fingernail appeared out of nowhere. It flickered with a dim light and floated in the wind, flying in the direction of the church. At the very next moment, this faint glow lightly trembled, then abruptly manifested into a blazing sun that unleashed large clusters of crimson flames like a meteor shower towards the church's buildings. Chaos Divine Skill, Azure Flame. This was a divine skill from the Chaos Serpent's King, Ouroboros. Almost as soon as the Azure Flame appeared, the church's alarms rang out. Groups of angels flew to the sky to receive the intense flames. Chapter 1459. A rain of fire began to rain down from above. Groups of angels flew into the sky, attempting to stop the falling clusters of fire. But against this chaos divine skill, the angels' efforts were destined to be futile. The angels that tried to stop the rain of fire were instantly burned to ashes. Desperate screams rang out. The angels slowly realized the severity of this attack, so they quickly retreated and hurriedly dodged in the night sky. Under the rain of fire, all of the church's defensive techniques were activated. Endless hymns resounded. Holy light soared above the church, connecting into one, forming dozens of layers of translucent protective shields. These densely packed protective shields isolated the entire church from the outside world. The rain of fire crashed into the barriers with a resounding boom. The layers of holy light naturally couldn't completely stop the rain of fire, but they quickly regenerated. As soon as they were pierced through, they immediately regenerated. The angels returned to the church and began to cooperate with the defensive techniques to stop the rain of fire from falling. However, this could only extinguish a few clusters of fire within a small area. A large amount of blue fire continued to descend, striking the church's buildings and creating sky-high flames. The Chaos Serpent's King, Ouroboros. This was an awaiting that managed to survive until the very last moment of another parallel world. When it unleashed its full power, only a combatant at Red Wraith's level would be able to stop it for a while. Even Red Wraith couldn't do anything to it and could only temporarily seal it away. And this was under the condition that the Chaos Serpent's King had suffered too many wounds and wasn't at full strength. Gu Qing had only helped it heal the wounds from the Plague Apocalypse, but couldn't do anything to its previous wounds. Such an attack wasn't something the angels could defend against. Under the shroud of night, the flames reached all the way to the sky. The orange cat's expression was frigid as he sat on the opposite side of the street, carefully observing the church's situation. The sea of flames was reflected in the orange cat's eyes, but couldn't cause any ripples. He simply sat there silently and waited. Time slowly passed. The rain of fire finally destroyed several important buildings of the church. The layers of holy light became extremely dim. The situation was becoming more and more chaotic. It was now that the orange cat slowly stood up, took out a formation plate, and tapped it several times with his paw. Soon enough, a small-scale warp formation was set up in a shadowy corner of the street. The orange cat put the formation plate away and swung his tail. An autumn water clear blue sword manifested from thin air, landed on the orange cat's tail, and was tightly wrapped around it. The orange cat took a few steps forward and prepared to attack. It continued to wait. Time ticked by. A huge fireball descended from the sky, piercing through all the holy light and landing in the main cathedral. Bang! Amidst the deafening sound, the entire cathedral turned into a splattering of flames. The holy light that filled the sky flickered for a moment before gradually dying out. This was the moment. The orange cat's figure flickered and vanished. Before the layers of holy light lit up again, it had already landed next to the collapsed church and immediately released its divine sense to observe the surroundings. Soon enough, the orange cat noticed something. In the southwest corner of the church, groups of angels were guarding a single building. Whenever an azure flame descended upon the building, many of the angels would immediately rush forward and unleash spell techniques at the expense of their own lives in order to defend against the azure flames descending from the sky. Although angels kept dying in battle, there were still large numbers of angels surging out of that building. The orange cat silently watched for a while, feeling a bit confused. Every now and then, the door of the building would open. Groups of angels flew out from the building one after another. There were so many of them that the building couldn't contain them. Could there be a warp formation inside? The orange cat silently moved forward, avoiding a group of angels who came to extinguish the flames. Thanks to the power of ghostly shadow of night, none of the angels noticed the orange cat's existence. Because of that, the orange cat coiled his tail around the sword and didn't attack. He slowly moved forward, carefully avoiding the attacks of the azure flames while approaching the building. At a certain point, the building's door opened again. The orange cat took this chance and abruptly used his divine skill. Ground shrink. In a split second, the orange cat appeared behind the angels and directly entered the building. As soon as he entered, he heard a familiar voice. Who exactly is it that dares to openly attack the church in Void City? I must kill him. The orange cat's ears twitched. This was Omaki's voice, the Omaki that he was familiar with. The orange cat looked into the main hall, only to see several angels kneeling on one knee, surrounding a unique six-winged angel who exuded holy light. A seraph. I didn't think Omaki would be a seraph. His expression was a bit cold, but also angry as he shouted at an angel at his feet. Why haven't you found the source of this divine flame technique? The angel fearfully replied, This subordinate is currently searching, but there has never been such a technique in the last several thousand years of records. Then search back 10,000 years. The seraph shouted, Understood, understood. The angel quickly flipped through the book in his hand and quickly searched. Next to these angels was a runic formation composed entirely of holy white light. Occasionally, angels would be teleported here from the runic formation. Sure enough, there was a warp formation here. The orange cat narrowed his eyes and decided to hide in a corner. For the sake of safety, he didn't tell them too much about the battle between the Chaos Serpents and Red Wraith. This was the most basic form of caution. At the time, when Gu Qing-shan had just returned, many people wanted to learn everything from Gu Qing-shan. Unfortunately, the City Lord's manor was on Gu Qing-shan's side, coupled with the ominous Demon Tower's influence, as well as the fact that the Hitman Guild was in the business of killing people. Trying to pry into the secrets of a titled hitman would easily violate the taboo of this organization of killers, and the ominous Demon Tower wouldn't let it go so easily. Because of that, no one knew about the details of the battle. But when they tried to investigate, they found that the Plague Apocalypse had disappeared and a new world had been created. Someone used a unique method to communicate with the will of that world, which confirmed Gu Qing-shan's words. Because of that, everyone believed everything that Gu Qing-shan said. But no one knew the exact situation of the Chaos Serpents, and neither did Omaki. While thinking that, the orange cat's tail moved. The Six Paths Great Mountain sword swung along with his tail, aiming at Omaki. This guy who sold me out deserves to die. But why did he do that? The orange cat fell into thought. The sound of hurried footsteps could be heard. Holy Sun, we can't hold on any longer. That technique is becoming more and more intense. It feels like it's endless, someone reported. Omaki's anger abruptly disappeared. He calmed down and ordered, "At this point, there's no need to hold on any longer. Have everyone leave the church's territory, sir. What about you?" One of the angels asked. "I'll return to heaven," Omaki casually replied. The angel tried to persuade him. "That won't do, sir. If the other party is able to unleash such a technique, heaven wouldn't be safe either." Omaki opened his mouth, about to say something, then slowly closed it again. "You're right. The entire church wouldn't be able to stop such a technique. Even if I return to heaven, it wouldn't be safe," he muttered to himself. The orange cat silently observed on one side, then quickly saw a strange scene. Omaki was looking at the clock on the wall. The other angels also looked at the clock. The orange cat carefully scanned it with his inner sight, only to find that it was nothing more than a normal clock. Then Omaki said, "It's about time. We'll first head to heaven, then to that place. Yes, Holy Sun. You'll be safe there, Holy Sun. Please depart." The angels replied. Omaki said, "Those who are qualified to remain, the rest of you must leave the church's territory immediately." "Understood." The angels all responded. The angels quickly scattered. The angels who were fighting against the azure flames outside also quickly left the church's territory and fled elsewhere. Only a few angels remained around Omaki. What exactly is going on here? Where is Omaki going? The orange cat's eyes flickered. Killing Omaki doesn't seem to be his #1 choice anymore. "Let's go," Omaki ordered. The angels followed him into the warp formation. The warp formation gave off blinding white light as it was fully activated. The angels' expressions relaxed a bit as they waited for the warp to complete. Omaki also began to ponder the origin of the terrifying technique in the sky. In that split second, the orange cat finally moved. Divine skill, shadow shift. Omaki was switched out of the warp formation by the orange cat. A second later, the orange cat switched places with the clock on the wall. The warp formation activated. The angels and the clock were warped away. The only person left in the room was Omaki. His vision blurred for a brief moment as the space around him fluctuated slightly. This is a sign that the warp has been completed. But why am I still in the room? As soon as he thought that, a sword was already pressed against his neck. Blue-white lightning flashed. Thaumaturgy, dream jolt. Omaki's body twitched, unable to move. The orange cat quickly took out a formation plate and tapped it with his paw. Warp activated. The orange cat and Omaki both disappeared and reappeared outside the church, inside the prearranged formation. The orange cat used ground shrink again and vanished with Omaki. Chapter 1460. The Red Brick House. Buttercup wasn't here anymore. Perhaps she went to the ominous Demon Tower or the City Lord's Manor. Guqing Shan threw Omaki to the ground, drew the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword, and stabbed him in the chest. Countless flashes of light came from Omaki's body, then quickly faded away. Omaki endured the pain and coldly asked, "This isn't the Earth Sword. Why can it break through all of my defensive techniques?" Guqing Shan didn't answer. Holding the hilt of the sword, he lifted the other party up and pinned him against the wall. "Arg, dash!" Omaki was screaming in pain, seemingly about to release something. Guqing Shan said without changing her expression, "Move, and you die." Omaki had no choice but to let go. He breathed heavily. "What did you notice me?" Guqing Shan asked in return. "Omaki, why did you betray me? Why did you tell the wraiths about me?" Omaki's expression was full of pain, sweating profusely, as if he couldn't endure the pain of being pinned to the wall. Shanu's voice suddenly came from the sword. "Gongzi, this isn't his real body." Guqing Shan's expression didn't change at all and casually replied, "I know, within the space vortex, there were countless worlds, countless combatants, countless thaumaturgies and abilities. It was impossible for a single person to always surpass others, and it wasn't possible to know everything. Fortunately, Gu Shan specifically chose the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword to stab him. This sword could cut through all laws. Because of that, as soon as the sword pierced his body, Shanu noticed something strange. Omaki's pained expression disappeared and smiled. Your sword spirit is quite sharp. Unfortunately, I was too focused on the Earth Sword at the time and didn't notice such a powerful sword, Gu Shan asked. I'll ask you again, why did you betray me? He stared into Omaki's eyes, and there was a hint of killing intent in his voice. If you don't want to tell me, I won't force you. But remember, I will definitely destroy this clone of yours, and then I will find you until I kill you. Omaki replied, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, Tiske, sure enough, a person capable of doing so much is truly extraordinary. How about this? I'll answer one of your questions, but you'll have to answer one of mine in return. Otherwise, you'll have to destroy this clone of mine, and we'll meet again. Why did you betray me? Gu Shan asked. Omaki chuckled and said, You're quick to ask. Fine, I'll tell you. I've never betrayed you, because you and I are not the same kind of people. Everything I've done, from my standpoint, was necessary. In other words, my death is in line with your interests, Gu Shan said. Correct, Omaki admitted. What's your relationship with the wraiths? Gu Shan asked again. Don't, we've already agreed. One question in exchange for another, Omaki replied. He then asked, Dragon King, how did you notice that there was something wrong with me? Gu Shan curtly replied, In truth, I've always been suspicious of your matters. I simply felt that everyone has their own privacy, and you haven't done anything that I can't tolerate. You can be considered to have gone through life and death with me. So, I never interfered with your matters. The six-winged seraphim suddenly laughed out loud. Don't pretend to be so mysterious. I can even guess that it must have been Crow's prophecy, otherwise you wouldn't have noticed that you were betrayed, Gu Shan muttered. When Crow and I saved you from a pile of corpses, you were already exposed. Omaki's laughter abruptly stopped. You're lying. He stared straight at Gu Shan and spoke with a heavy voice. It's very simple. When Crow and I were trapped inside the stone tower, you purposely revealed a sliver of vitality while hiding among the countless corpses, so I immediately knew that there was something wrong with you, Gu Shan replied. I'm a survivor, Omaki replied. The corpses around you have all been dead for a few days. They're already starting to stink, but you're still full of vitality. In an apocalyptic environment, your luck is extremely rare, Gu Shan commented. Omaki stayed silent for a bit, then replied, I'll pay attention to my surroundings next time, but that doesn't prove that I'm in the wrong. Perhaps I really am a lucky one? Gu Shan continued. In the Saint Spirit world, to better deal with the changes and challenges of the world, I was turned into a young man, Crow was turned into a woman, and you were turned into a duck toy, so what? Now that I think about it, the will of that world really deserves to die. Turning me into a toy, Omaki begrudgingly said. Gu Shan looked straight at him, then slowly explained, I was turned into a young man because the will of the world needed me to start with the identity of Road. Crow was turned into a woman because he was already extremely beautiful. Turning into a woman was only to play to his advantage. Don't you get it? The will of the world was helping us, but also helping itself. As for you being turned into a duck toy, it meant that the will of the world was wary of you. So would rather lose a helper like you than have you participate in the most crucial matters. If you had been by my side when I was working in the plague world and the extinct monster world, the outcome would have been completely different. Gu Shan leaned forward, staring straight into Omaki's eyes, and continued. The will of the world is the amalgamation of the many laws of the world. It had sensed that there was something wrong with you. Omaki was stunned, unable to say anything for a while. Gu Shan continued. After returning, Crow and I were discussing something, and you just happened to show up, even giving us a technological light tube that could detect everything. Seems like you don't know. I'm actually a scientist. You? A scientist? Omaki asked in disbelief. Gu Shan regretfully replied, I know the functions of that light tube of yours, but I didn't say anything because I felt that even if you had any little tricks up your sleeves, I would be able to deal with them. You wouldn't be able to deal with them, Omaki replied. Gu Shan didn't say anything. He simply reached his hand out and pointed at the sword in Omaki's chest. Omaki looked down at the sword in his chest and fell silent. At this point, intense rays of light suddenly erupted from the window. On the street outside, someone was shouting and screaming. "Hurry! Go take a look. The church has been destroyed. What the hell? Who exactly was it that could completely erase the glory church? Those angels are running around like headless flies. Oh no, this is a huge incident." Inside the small brick house, the two of them silently listened to the conversation outside. Omaki's pupils dilated. His expression became stern. Gu Qing-shan spoke. "Now it's your turn to answer my question. What exactly is the relationship between you and the Wraiths?" "Alliance, there are many organizations in Void City that are allies of the Wraiths, the library, the church, the Hunter Guild, etc. There are actually quite a few, but the three I've mentioned are already my limit. I won't tell you the rest one by one," Omaki replied. "Why did you help the Wraiths? They've clearly done so much evil. What exactly were you thinking?" Gu Qing-shan asked. Omaki wagged his finger, saying, "Now it's my turn to ask you. Please tell me, if the one who betrayed you wasn't me, but Crow, would you have so many reasons to notice that something was wrong with him?" Gu Qing-shan replied, "There are many things that aren't really clues. Why do you say that?" Omaki asked. "Under normal circumstances, it's impossible for a person to constantly focus on doing the right thing. So a person's state of mind is usually scattered. For example, when we're drinking at a bar, if you carefully observe, you'll notice that everyone is doing a lot of unconscious actions that they themselves aren't even aware of. So you can't judge a person as good or bad based on their actions alone. This is also why I've been tolerating you so much," Gu Qing-shan explained. "You think I'm on your side?" Omaki asked. "Indeed, especially after we've gone through thick and thin together," Gu Qing-shan replied. Omaki tilted his head in thought, then said, "So you're waiting to see what kind of mistake I'm going to make? And then what? What do you plan to do?" Gu Qing-shan replied, "If you've gone down the wrong path, I'll pull you back. If you're being threatened by someone, I'll kill that person. If you have any other problems, Crow, and I will help you solve them." Omaki lowered his head. A flicker of light appeared in his eyes, but he didn't say anything for a long while. "So, I've disappointed you?" he suddenly asked. "From now on, it won't happen again," Gu Qing-shan replied. Omaki looked up, carefully observing Gu Qing-shan again. "It's been a very long time since I've seen someone like you," he slowly said. "If it weren't for the fact that our cause has reached a crucial point and you're standing in the way of the bigger picture, I would have wanted you to join us. What exactly are the two of you doing?" Gu Qing-shan asked. Omaki stared straight at him and answered seriously. "After I answer this question, I'll no longer owe you anything. From now on, we'll leave our own destinies to the will of the heavens, and we'll no longer be friends in life or death. Whether that's the case or not, I'll only know after I hear the answer," Gu Qing-shan replied. Omaki lightly leaned forward, lowering his voice. "The era of the samsara clash for supremacy is about to arrive, and we are preparing to destroy the entire samsara and rewrite the future of this era." He spun around in place. Then his body was sliced apart by the sword that was attached to the wall, scattering into pieces of white paper. He had destroyed this clone of himself and left in front of Gu Qing-shan. Chapter 1461. The small brick house returned to silence. Gu Qing-shan was sweating profusely. He took out a handkerchief and silently wiped the sweat off his forehead. Cold sweat couldn't help but flow down his back. This was his body's reaction to death, as well as his spirit's sense. The Six Paths' great mountain sword returned and hovered next to Gu Qing-shan. "Gongzi, he's gone," Shanu said. Gu Qing-shan replied. The earth sword couldn't help but ask, "Gu Qing-shan, do you believe what he said?" "Not a single word," Gu Qing-shan replied. Shanna was a bit surprised, then said, "But both of you said that we should ask each other questions." "We did, but why do we have to answer each other truthfully?" Gu Qing-shan refuted. Shanna froze. Gu Qing-shan continued, "Shanu, you've already met Lady Fusey with me, as well as the Dragon Ancestor and the Chaos Serpent's King, so your eyes should be a bit sharper." "A bit sharper?" Shanu didn't understand. "That's right. Just look at these angels. They couldn't even stop a single attack from the Chaos Serpent's King. What right do they have to say that they want to destroy the samsara? Gu Qing scoffed. Gongzi means, Shanna said. The Chaos Serpent's king wasn't at its peak, so it was sealed away by Red Wraith. Red Wraith came from the Wraith realm, one of the two divine armaments that ruled over the Wraith realm. The Heavenly King and the Wraith among the Wraith, Gu Qingshan explained. Shanna fell into thought. The Wraith realm's Gu Fu was able to fight against the Chaos Serpent's king. But the samsara has a total of 6 worlds, so the other spirits might be even more powerful. With that in mind, she felt that Omaki's words just now were a bit laughable. The entire church couldn't even stop a single attack. So how could they fight against the samsara? Not to mention, this was only a spirit. A weapon must be in the hands of its master in order to display its true power. Who is Red Wraith's master? If I don't borrow other powers, how could I win against such a powerful enemy? The more Shanu thought about it, the more she felt guilty. While Gu Qingshan was wiping the sweat off her forehead, she heard Shanna muttering, Red Wraith is too strong, able to fight against an entity like the Chaos Serpent's king if he had a master. Gu Qingshan's eyes lit up and loudly called out, Shanu. What? Gongzi? Shanu hurriedly asked. Gu Qingshan shouted, You are the Samsara Great Mountain Sword, possessing the power of eternity and lawbreaker. Not even Red Wraith would be able to deal with you. If I ever face Red Wraith of our world, my life and success will depend on you. Shanu's voice became firm. Don't worry, Gongzi. As long as I'm here, I'll definitely help you break that talisman. Gu Qingshan nodded and felt relieved. Watching on the side, the Earth Sword muttered, I don't know when the Samsara clash for supremacy will begin, but the artifact spirits of the Samsara have already begun. At this point, Luo Bingli's voice resounded. Gu Qingshan, if you're all playing around, surely you have a goal in mind? I do. Gu Qingshan wiped the sweat off her forehead and continued. He's keeping me here in order to notify those who want to kill me. Just look, my spirit sense has already sensed the terror of death, so I'm sweating profusely. Luo Bingli couldn't help but raise her voice. Then you're just letting him keep you here? Why aren't you running for your life? Gu Qingshan replied, Because I was the one who gave him the chance to call for reinforcements. Luo Bingli froze. A second later, figures appeared around Gu Qingshan one after another. The first to appear was a woman. She wore a dark green robe with white patterns, had long black hair, and a pair of emerald eyes that gave off a sense of spirituality. This strongest woman of Void City handed a void line that gave off a black aura to Gu Qingshan. Everything is prepared, ready to activate at any moment. Fei Yu's tone was filled with killing intent. Buttercup appeared from behind Fei Yu, nodded to Gu Qingshan, and said, As soon as you sent word, we immediately began our preparations. There aren't many people this time, but they're all experts. We're determined to keep those wraiths here. Another figure appeared. This was a burly man with a cartoon bear tattooed on his body. He smirked. Killing wraiths and angels? What an interesting thing. Another voice resounded. That's right, but since it's a battle of life and death, there's no reward for it from the void of space. A white-haired old man with slicked-back hair and a cigar in his mouth walked out. One of his eyes was covered by a black eye patch, while the other was as sharp as an eagle's. He sat in the middle of the audience, wielding a short scepter in his hand with a black bird perched on his shoulder. The master of the Hitman Guild, Crow, also wielded a rapier and walked out from the void of space. Old man, don't always think about money. You need to train your body sometimes, otherwise you'll lose to me sooner or later, he mocked. Gu Qingshan looked at the figures that appeared one after another, then asked Fei Yu in a low voice, Will they leak the information? They won't. My fate ability has linked everyone together. Any traitor will die, Fei Yu replied. What about the Great Flood? Gu Qingshan asked. After capturing these people, we'll immediately leave, Fei Yu said. She grabbed the long black thread, coiled it around Gu Qingshan's body, then chanted an incantation. Buttercup also chanted another incantation towards Gu Qingshan. As Gu Qingshan was about to ask about the thread, Lines of glowing text appeared in front of his eyes. Frowny face, your world technique has been nourished by Huang Quan origin power. Only the final step remains. Please place your Huang Quan Saint selection orb into your left eye. It shall become the core of your world technique. Reading through it, Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but sigh. My left eye has been infused with the 5 elements, the 4 great worlds, the inner plane origin power, the incomplete parallel world, the power of the iris sword, the remnant world spirit of the past, Huang Quan origin power, and now I even need to add a bead into it. Is this left eye still an eye? However, with a brand new world technique right in front of me, how could Gu Qing Shan give it up? He gritted his teeth and took out the Huang Quan Saint selection orb from his thought sea. As soon as the bead emitting a faint yellow mist appeared, he immediately pressed it into his left eye. New lines of notification quickly appeared on the War God UI. Frowny face, and new world technique is being created. Please wait for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your world technique. Huang Quan's guide has been activated. Huang Quan's guide. You can infuse other Huang Quan fragments in your eye to create an even more powerful Huang Quan world. Huang Quan's guide is the most fundamental Huang Quan technique. As you obtain more and more Huang Quan fragments, the laws of Huang Quan in your eye will become increasingly stronger, allowing you to become stronger. Attention! Whenever you fuse a new Huang Quan fragment into your body, your abilities will also be strengthened by Huang Quan transformation, evolving into a more powerful Huang Quan divine skill. Special note: when you obtain Huang Quan's guide, you will have truly participated in the early stages of the samsara clash for supremacy. You will have begun to fuse with the Huang Quan world. This is the beginning of everything. Furthermore, your left eye will no longer be blind. Gu Qing Shan felt intense pain coming from his left eye. His left eye was enveloped by a burning mist, giving off an indescribable aura of death. A vast power manifested in his eye. Gu Qing Shan, what's the matter? Buttercup asked. It's nothing, it's just a skill evolving. Gu Qing Shan covered his left eye as he replied. Buttercup and Fei Yu exchanged glances and calmed down. It's about to begin. Fei Yu sensed something and muttered. Buttercup nodded. The two of them disappeared from Gu Qing Shan's sight. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Boom! The entire brick house was flattened. Dust flew everywhere. One by one, people wearing Yiksha masks appeared. Not too far away, countless angels descended from above, circling around Gu Qing Shan. From the sky to the ground, they were either angels or Yiksha, completely surrounding Gu Qing Shan. A fully armored Yiksha walked out and stared at Gu Qing Shan. Catching a turtle in a jar, the Yiksha's mocking voice resounded. Gu Qing Shan lightly nodded and smiled. I completely agree with your point of view. All of a sudden, his left eye began to ache again. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI. Frowny face, thanks to your Huang Quan's guide. Your first skill is currently undergoing a change. Your secret art, Water Flow Severance, has been fused with Huang Quan origin power and transformed into a Huang Quan skill. You've obtained Huang Quan's secret art, Divine Skill, Forgetting River Slash. Chapter 1462. An unfamiliar sword style manifested in Gu Qing Shan's thought sea, slowly being comprehended and grasped by him. Huang Quan Divine Skill, Forgetting River Slash. Iris Sword, instant cast, instantly unleash 36 mind swords. If they are blocked, then unleash another 72 swords. If they are blocked again, then unleash 144 swords. So on and so forth. Each sword will be stronger than the previous one, up to 1,000 swords. The Forgetting River's water flows without end. Gu Qing Shan was quite surprised. His understanding of mind swords was only limited to Rahu's eclipse of sun and moon, so he didn't expect another mind sword to appear. He just didn't know how powerful this divine skill sword art was. While Gu Qing Shan was pondering, the armored wraith shouted, Dragon King of Atrocity Jail, your death is imminent. Hand over the twin swords heaven and earth and surrender. Gu Qing Shan looked at the wraith in shock. Isn't this a ready-made target? With a single thought, he activated the sword style and unleashed intense sword phantoms from his left eye. Instantly, a total of 36 sharp, twisted ripples manifested from the void of space at the same time, slashing towards the armored wraith. Caught off guard, the wraith hurriedly pulled out a long rod to block in front of himself. Clang, 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 clang. A series of consecutive strikes struck the rod. As if struck by a great force, the wraith was sent flying. A wraith who was chosen to be the leader was at least somewhat capable. He actually managed to block 36 strikes. Unfortunately, as soon as the 36 strikes scattered, another 72 sharp ripples manifested and struck the wraith's body. The wraith was shocked, hurriedly swung the rod in his hand and shouted, "Petty tricks!" Dash boom! A sharp ripple collided with the long staff, and an explosive sound rang out. The power of this strike was even stronger. In the blink of an eye, the wraith's body turned into a black shadow that shot towards the sky. At the edge of his vision, countless sword phantoms struck his rod. The rod couldn't hold on any longer and broke in half. The wraith was instantly turned into a mist of blood by the invisible ripples, scattered by the night wind. The crowd fell silent. Those evil spirits and angels did not see Gu Qingshan's attack at all. They only saw the malevolent spirit leader say one sentence before he was sent flying. On the other hand, Gu Qingshan secretly nodded. As soon as the divine skill of the pupil swordsmanship was unleashed, he immediately knew what was going to happen. The sword eye technique was very powerful, but it also consumed a lot of energy. He had used up more than 20% of his Huang Quan origin power. The origin energy of the Yellow Springs was the spiritual energy that had evolved. It needed a certain amount of time to rest before it could slowly recover. Of course, if Gu Qingshan were to fuse with even more Huang Quan fragment worlds in the future, his Huang Quan origin power would become even more abundant. Gu Qingshan nodded slightly and muttered to herself, "Not bad. You managed to block 107 of my sword strikes. You are indeed qualified to lead the mission to kill me." As soon as Gu Qingshan's words fell, the evil spirits and angels in the sky immediately woke up. "Damn it, kill him!" An angel shouted. "Go, kill him!" As they were about to act, Gu Qingshan seemed to have sensed something and sternly shouted, "Wait! All of you stop! Quickly stop!" The angels and wraiths couldn't help but stop. Gu Qingshan's expression was extremely solemn as he shouted at everyone, "Listen up! None of you are allowed to attack me at the same time." He appeared to be extremely tense, as if he was facing some sort of serious problem. Everyone's hearts skipped a beat. Could there be some sort of hidden agenda? One of the angels couldn't help but ask, "Why can't we attack?" Gu Qingshan looked at the enemies in the sky and answered with a stern expression, "Because if all of you attack me at the same time, I will die." The angels and wraiths froze in place, their minds quickly turning. This person is right, but we're here to take your life anyway. Bastard, do you not understand the situation at all? At this point, a female voice resounded. "No need to stall. The threads of death have already wrapped around all of our prey." Gu Qingshan immediately raised his hand. One end of a thread that gave off black mist was tied to his wrist, while the other end reached into the boundless void of space. Gu Qingshan forcefully pulled it down. The female voice also shouted, "Twin worlds of fate, activate." Instantly, all the angels and wraiths felt an immense pulling force coming from their bodies. The countless angels and wraiths in the sky disappeared without a trace. In the night sky, there was no longer any overwhelming presence, powerful fluctuations, or intense killing intent. Everything returned to normal. This scene was so miraculous that it was almost like a miracle. Gu Qingshan looked around and sighed. Finally, Peace Xiao Dai slowly floated down and stood beside him. She looked a little worried. "My house was demolished by them," she angrily complained. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit and consoled her. "The great flood is coming. It's an unlivable apocalypse. Your house definitely won't be able to survive, so it's fine if it's demolished." Buttercup refuted. "I can't. I designed that house myself, spent a lot of effort to decorate it." I need to kill a few more to avenge my house. She raised her hand. On her wrist, there was also a thread that gave off black mist. Buttercup clenched her fist tightly and struck the void of space. A series of desperate screams resounded. From the sound alone, it was clear that these screams came from both wraiths and angels. Guqing Shan crossed her arms and stood on one side, confusedly asking, "Where exactly did these angels come from?" "The angels I know seem to have come from the world of heaven, but the inner plane also seems to have angels." Buttercup continuously punched the void of space and replied, "Angels were originally special envoys of the inner plane, responsible for a certain type of authority that restrained the deities, known as condemnation. But after the inner plane was destroyed, the angels lost this authority and drifted into the space vortex, gradually forming their own world." Guqing Shan was surprised. Authority that restrained the deities, the name of condemnation. This sounds very familiar. He released his inner sight and scanned his thought sea. The condemnation codex was silently lying in his thought sea without moving. I didn't think there would be such a reason. If that's the case, these angels are all fake goods, while Little Dusk and I are the real angels. Guqing Shan's thoughts were a bit complicated. Then what exactly are these angels trying to do by working together with the wraiths? Don't tell me it's as Omaki said, and they want to destroy the samsara? That's impossible. Ignoring everything else, the wraiths alone wouldn't be able to destroy the Mara Heavenly King Bow and the Red Wraith Life Talisman. Buttercup's voice resounded and abruptly cut off his thoughts. Guqing Shan, come and kill them as well. Quickly, after you're done, we're going to leave right away. Guqing Shan regained his senses and drew his sword. He wielded the sword with a hand that had the black thread wrapped around it and slashed at the void of space. Blood splattered in front of him, but not a single drop landed on him. At various hidden locations, the combatants all had black threads tied to their hands as they continuously attacked the void of space. Not too long later, Fei Yu's voice resounded again. "No need to kill anymore. I've left a few behind." Slowly pry open their mouths. Everyone stopped attacking at the same time. Fei Yu continued, "Everyone, gather at the City Lord's manor. We're leaving Void City before the Great Flood arrives." While she spoke, Guqing Shan noticed that the black thread on his hand had disappeared. He couldn't help but look at the remaining combat records on the War God UI. Frowny face, you successfully connected to the twin worlds of fate, located in the realm of life. Each of your attacks will directly strike a living being in the realm of death and cause true damage. Attention, this is a top-level fate-type divine skill. Do not attempt to interfere or destroy it. Otherwise, a series of misfortune will follow you for 100 years before gradually disappearing. Guqing Shan lightly shook his head. Fate-type skills are truly terrifying. As expected of the strongest person in Void City, Fei Yu is truly worthy of being called the strongest person in Void City. Chapter 1463. The City Lord's Manor. Several angels and wraiths were imprisoned in the void of space, unable to move at all. The big shots of Void City were gathered around Fei Yu, currently interrogating these guys. Guqing Shan and Buttercup both appeared from the void of space. Crow also appeared from another part of the void and told everyone, "I can already foresee the Great Flood's arrival, but due to some sort of setback, it will take at least half a day before it appears in Void City." Everyone's expressions relaxed. Half a day is more than enough time to leave. Guqing Shan's gaze swept through them, only to see that the angels were already dead without any signs of torture on their bodies. When they were captured, the angels had already committed suicide. Guqing Shan was surprised. How could these angels be so stubborn that they killed themselves before even being interrogated? Fei Yu replied, "Because there is a holy pool within the kingdom of angels. After they die, they will return to the holy pool and turn back into angels." Guqing Shan was surprised and turned to look at the wraiths. There were still 3 to 5 wraiths alive, but from the wounds on their bodies, they had clearly been tortured. Buttercup walked forward and raised a finger. Her finger turned into a sharp bone spike that pierced through one of the wraith's eyebrows, then muttered, belonging to the bone, the servant of the soul, I order you to reveal the secrets of your heart. Bam. With a resounding crack, the wraith's head exploded like it was being sucked dry. Blood splattered everywhere. Buttercup was surprised. A blind nun explained, "It's useless. Their soul vessels have been restrained. As soon as they involuntarily say anything, they will immediately die." Buttercup looked at this person and asked, "Even a master of the mind like yourself won't be able to do it?" The blind nun replied, "Their soul vessels have been fused with some sort of object. Unless you know the secret behind it, using force will immediately take their lives." Gu Shan asked, "What exactly was it that fused with their soul vessels?" The blind nun turned to the wraiths and replied, "You'll have to ask them that themselves." The wraiths all lowered their heads and said nothing. At this point, Fei Yu casually said, "You'd better think it through. If you tell us, we might be able to rescue you from this situation of being controlled by others, spare your lives, and you won't need to be enslaved ever again." An evil spirit sneered, "I don't need your mercy. Our Wraith realm has our own immortal craft that allows us to reincarnate, so we aren't afraid of your interrogation methods." Fei Yu answered without changing her expression. "A heavenly art that can resurrect the dead requires over half of a Wraith Lord's power, as well as the full power of a Wraith might. Furthermore, your war against the Eternal Abyss has only just reached its climax, so I'm guessing that no Wraith Lord would dare to waste their own power to save you at such a crucial moment. The same goes for Wraith might." The Wraith was stunned. Another evil spirit shouted in a low voice, "Don't be fooled. If you want to die, then die happily. Do you want to betray the Ghost Lord and have your soul fished out from the Yellow Springs to endure eternal torture and punishment?" When the evil ghost heard this, he seemed to have thought of something. He shivered and quickly muttered something. One breath. After chanting the incantation, his body tilted and fell to the ground. He was dead. The other wraiths followed suit and silently chanted the incantation in their minds without opening their mouths. They all fell to the ground at the same time, no longer breathing. The big shots looked at each other and felt helpless. Against someone who was actively seeking death and could die at any moment, no one had any good solutions. At this point, only the last two wraiths were still alive. The Hitman Guild's master sighed, then said, "It seems the wraiths were able to keep the secret of their world for so long without any problems. Let me give it a try." A voice called out. Everyone followed the voice, only to see Dragon King of Atrocity Jail standing next to Buttercup. Buttercup asked in a low voice, "Are you confident?" Gu Shan replied, "There's always another method. If I don't try it, I won't know if it'll work." Buttercup turned to Fei Yu. Flying Moon Diua looked at Gu Shan and nodded. Gu Shan smiled, then suddenly took out a large black pot from behind her back. The big shots were puzzled when they saw that. "This is supposed to be an interrogation. Why did you take out a pot?" Buttercup reminded her in a low voice, "Oi, wraith meat isn't tasty. It's very sour." She seemed to recall that scene and appeared disdainful. Gu Shan paused, then said, "Don't worry, I won't eat them." He formed a hand seal to draw water, started a fire, and cooked a bowl of noodles with great familiarity. In front of everyone, he carried the bowl of noodles to one of the wraiths and said, "Come, have some noodles." The wraith appeared confused. "I'm about to die, and you're telling me to eat noodles? Is there something fishy going on?" "No, I definitely can't betray the Wraith Lord. Otherwise, I'll suffer endless torture after death." The wraith stared at Gu Shan, then hesitated for a split second. "Fine, death is the safest option right now." The wraith silently chanted an incantation in his mind. As soon as Gu Shan saw the resolute expression on the other party's face, he immediately knew that things weren't looking good. He set his title to Most Flirtatious Man and activated his title skill. "That makes sense." Gu Shan quickly said, "Look, you're about to die. If you don't eat something before you die, what if you get hungry on the road to Huangquan?" The wraith was already halfway through his incantation, but as he heard him say that, he couldn't help but think, "That's right. Once I die, I'll definitely be walking on the road to Huangquan. I'm already about to die. Why would I have to suffer and become a hungry wraith?" The wraith glanced at Gu Qing and muttered, "You're right." Gu Qing signaled to Fei Yu with her eyes. Fei Yu's fingers loosened. 7 to 8 long black threads faintly appeared behind the wraith's back, then all loosened. The wraith regained his freedom. He took the bowl and chopsticks from Gu Qingshan's hand of his own accord and began to eat the noodles. It's delicious. What exactly did you put inside? Why is such a normal bowl of noodles so delicious? While eating, the wraith asked Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan smiled and said nothing. Everyone else also remained silent, waiting to see what Gu Qingshan was going to do next. But Gu Qingshan didn't do anything and simply watched as the wraith ate the noodles. It wasn't until the wraith finished eating and was about to chant the incantation that Gu Qingshan suddenly asked, "What exactly are you wraith souls refined with?" The wraith appeared confused and replied, "Each of us has a soul-controlling life talisman inside our thought sea, as long as we're forced to reveal any secrets or lose control of our soul vessel." Dash bam. A clear cracking sound. The wraith's head was split in half. The headless corpse fell to the ground. The big shots were surprised. Although he still died, they finally understood what the wraith were being restrained by. Life talismans. I know about them. Among the wraith's many tricks, the guy's incantation is guaranteed to hit, while life talismans are unpredictable, quick to activate and hard to stop, the ominous Demon Tower's master said. The blind female cultivator appeared, sorrowful, and said, "I've also studied the wraith's life talismans. Unfortunately, I only understood one thing. A life talisman is activated using life force. Someone will definitely die when it's activated. Unless what?" Fei Yu asked. "Unless someone is willing to sacrifice their own origin power to activate the life talisman," the blind female cultivator replied. The ominous Demon Tower's master coldly scoffed. Who would sacrifice their own origin power for no reason? This is the most fundamental of powers. A man carrying a 50-meter-long blade on his shoulder was reading a small booklet in his hand without looking up. The wraiths have a strict hierarchy. It's usually the higher-ranked wraiths who use the lives of lower-ranked wraiths to activate their life talismans. So not only are life talismans hard to defend against, they're also extremely powerful, Buttercup continued. The wraiths have a strict hierarchy, strict discipline, and are willing to risk their lives in battle. So it's because their lives have already fused with the life talisman. Disobedience means death. Everyone felt a bit heavy. If that's the case, there's no point in capturing a captive. Unless Dragon King of Atrocity Jail acts again, they might still be able to ask something. Everyone couldn't help but turn to the last wraith who was still alive. The wraith had a shocked expression and immediately chanted an incantation. What kind of joke is this? Although I'm greedy for life, if I reveal the secret of the wraith realm, I'll be tortured even in death. So I might as well die right now. The blind nun suddenly appeared behind the wraith and lightly patted his shoulder. The wraith's entire body turned into solid diamond, standing still without moving. With Dragon King of Atrocity Jail acting, we can still ask one more question, but we need to think carefully about what we want to ask, the blind nun said. Everyone looked at the diamond figure and fell into thought. Crow suddenly spoke up. "Everyone, although the great flood has yet to arrive, I can sense an ominous omen. This ominous omen originates from Void City itself." Fei Yu shouted, "Crow, activate your fusion technique with me." She reached her hand out and tossed a black thread to Crow. Crow caught the black thread, coiled it around his hand, and quickly chanted, "With the power of fate as the medium, manifest the ominous truth." The black thread abruptly shot into the void of space and spread into a screen of light. Within the boundless space vortex, several familiar figures appeared in the screen. These were the big shots of Void City. They weren't under the Wraith's control, but they had already pledged allegiance to the Wraith. Standing in front of this group was a white-haired old man wearing a Yiksha mask. He held a talisman in his hand and muttered an incantation. "Activate!" the old man shouted. Behind him, the others each held a talisman in their hand and triggered the power within their bodies. In the void not far away from them, layers of fog gradually appeared and flew towards the direction of Void City. "Fog! Gu Shan felt tense. The void couldn't handle power that was too powerful, so it could only manifest as fog. Otherwise, the void would shatter. From the looks of it, they seemed to be unleashing some sort of large-scale technique. The ominous Demon Tower's master shouted in a low voice. They're unleashing an extremely powerful restraining barrier. Unless our power surpasses theirs by 10 times, we won't be able to escape. Gu Shan released her inner sight to observe and found that the entire Void City had indeed been enveloped by a layer of fog. Fei Yu was a bit surprised. Her gaze fell onto the white-haired old man and couldn't move away. Buttercup walked forward and silently held her hand. "I'm fine," Fei Yu casually replied. At this point, the other big shots began to speak. "Look, that's the master of the Bounty Hunter Guild, and the people from the Void Library. They're with the Angels of the Church. The people from the Gem Association and the Mining Association aren't our people either. Humph. I knew those bastards had pledged allegiance to the old." The person who said this seemed to have realized something and abruptly shut his mouth, then instinctively glanced at Fei Yu. Fei Yu's expression was pale, biting her lip. Although her gaze was calm, her hands were trembling. Gu Shan's eyes flickered. Strange, why do these people all seem to know that wraith? And what's with Fei Yu's reaction? Before he could think any further, the old man on the screen seemed to have noticed something. He abruptly turned towards the group and laughed. "Fei Yu, for you to be able to borrow other people's talents to pry into fate, you've truly grown," Fei Yu coldly asked. "What are you doing here?" The old man replied. "Why can't I come? After all, you're about to be married into the Wraith Realm. To avoid any mishaps, I came here specifically to pick you up." "Mishaps?" Fei Yu repeated himself, then lowered her gaze and said, "So the reason you set up so many hidden pawns in Void City, as well as the large-scale imprisonment barrier around the City Lord's manor, was to pick me up and marry me into the Wraith Realm?" The old man chuckled. "You've managed Void City so well, and even managed to recruit a group of true combatants. This has proven your capabilities. However, compared to your fate talent, none of this is worth a single cent," he sincerely persuaded her. "Fei Yu, your talent is truly rare. Only the Wraith Realm would be able to exert your power. For the past few years, I've done a lot of things to help you, all of which were actually for your own good. Even if you don't appreciate it now, I'll continue to do so," Fei Yu calmly replied. "If I didn't have this fate talent, if I was only a normal person, would you still have spent so much effort?" The old man opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. Hearing that, Gu Shan was a bit doubtful and couldn't help but turn to Buttercup. Sensing his gaze, Buttercup signaled him with her eyes. A second later, her voice resounded in Gu Shan's ears. "I'll silently send my voice to you, but it's enough that you keep this to yourself. Don't tell anyone else." Gu Shan lightly nodded. Buttercup replied, "That was Fei Yu's father, the former Void City Lord." Gu Shan was surprised. "What? Didn't Fei Yu say that her father died?" "She hated him. The matters of her family are very complicated. In short, when Fei Yu displayed her fate talent when she was young, the Wraith Realm wanted to take Fei Yu away, but Fei Yu's mother didn't agree. The Wraiths promised all sorts of generous conditions and countless benefits, finally managing to tempt Fei Yu's father, but Fei Yu's mother still didn't agree, believing that nothing could be used to exchange for her daughter later on. For some reason, Fei Yu's mother died, and the Wraiths also retreated, but not too long after, the Wraiths once again returned to Void City and sought out Fei Yu's father, proposing that after Fei Yu grew up, one of the 3 Wraith Lords would come and marry her, making her the most powerful woman in the Wraith Realm. Did her father agree? Gu Shan asked. Not at first, but when the Wraiths promised even more benefits, her father finally agreed. Fei Yu's mother was also a powerful fate user, but she was already at the peak of her power, far inferior to the fate talent that Fei Yu displayed. I once investigated and found that Fei Yu's mother had sacrificed her life to fight against the Wraiths in order to protect her. After that, Fei Yu's father joined the Wraiths and stayed in the Wraith Realm for most of the time, leaving most of Void City's matters to Fei Yu. Gu Shan couldn't help but ask, why didn't she escape? I don't know either, but she most likely couldn't. When I arrived at Void City, I was spied on by the Wraiths. Because I'm an extremely rare, unique monster, the Wraiths wanted to capture me. At the time, I was alone. Fortunately, Fei Yu and the ominous Demon Tower's master helped me stop the Wraiths. So Fei Yu and I slowly became closer. That's basically it. Just keep it to yourself. Don't tell anyone. Buttercup reminded her one last time. I understand, Gu Qingshan replied. He quickly observed his surroundings and thought of a solution. The Great Flood is coming, but Fei Yu's father has already surrounded Void City. What's coming next is the moment that will decide everyone's life and death. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan turned to Fei Yu. As he looked at Fei Yu's resolute eyes, he roughly understood what was going to happen next. This isn't going to be easy. How can I escape this situation and find a way out? Gu Qingshan's thoughts quickly turned. Suddenly, his gaze fell onto the diamond statue. This wraith is being controlled by the life talisman, so he can only answer one more question. Life talisman, wait a minute, life talisman. Chapter 1464. Gu Qingshan looked at the diamond statue and quickly pondered. Red Wraith's true form is a talisman. Since Mara, Heavenly King, isn't here, Red Wraith is the true ruler of the Wraith realm. Perhaps all of the life talismans of the Wraith realm originated from Red Wraith? If that's the case, then since I've grasped Red Wraith's talisman creation technique, would I be able to dispel the soul-taking life talisman inside the Wraith soul vessel? With that in mind, Gu Qingshan turned to Fei Yu. Fei Yu, can I use the last Wraith? I've thought of another method. Fei Yu glanced at him in surprise. Originally, it was already impressive enough to pry a secret out of the Wraith's mouth, but now he had another idea. Very well, Big Sister Blind Nun. Please release the location of this Wraith soul for the Dragon King to investigate again, Fei Yu said. The blind nun lightly patted the diamond Wraith's head, returning it to its original state. Gu Qingshan walked in front of the Wraith and carefully pondered. From Red Wraith's life, talisman, divine skill, wicked thoughts, burning spirit, he had deciphered several thousand basic talisman techniques. When these talisman techniques are combined, they can be used to create countless different types of talisman techniques. But which life talisman would be able to release the soul-taking life talisman inside the Wraith's thought sea? While he was thinking, Fei Yu's father waved his hand from the screen of light. Following his action, the combatants who had surrendered to the Wraith all threw the talismans in their hands. All the talismans turned into streaks of light and flew towards Void City. Boom! A series of explosions resounded. Outside Void City, a blood-red screen of light surrounded by mist appeared. The great formation of myriad worlds, soul-trapping and life-locking. Fei Yu's father nodded satisfyingly. Anyone inside Void City, even if they died, their soul would be trapped inside the formation and taken away by the Wraiths. This was a large-scale formation that the Wraiths often used to destroy other worlds. The Wraiths would never forgive their enemies, even if they only had their souls left. In the City Lord Manor, someone recognized this spirit formation and couldn't help but shout, "Hong Yiju, you're actually so ruthless?" Hong Yiju shook his head and looked at Fei Yu. Daughter, I've come under the orders of the three Wraith Lords to bring you to the Wraith realm and marry the Wraith Lord of Karmic Fire, Fei Yu calmly replied. The Ghost Lord of Karmic Fire is known as the 100 Grudges. He loves to torture and kill all living beings. Do you really want to marry him? The ominous Demon Tower's master couldn't help but follow up. Old City Master, I won't stop you from seeking refuge with the Wraiths, but marrying Fei Yu to that by Yuan Gai is the same as directly killing Fei Yu. Hong Yiju sneered. I'm sure you all know that staying in Void City is the true path to death. Everyone was speechless. The myriad world's soul capturing and life-locking formation had been completed. There was no way to escape, even if he died. The Great Flood was coming. This was an unlivable apocalypse, capable of completely destroying Void City, not even giving anyone a chance to escape. But what was even more unexpected was that the old city master was standing on the side of the Wraiths, using this method to force his daughter to marry the Wraiths. How should we face the current situation? In truth, there is no need to fight against the Great Flood. because countless predecessors had proven that this was not a destruction that living beings could fight against. For now, the morale of the city master's manor was a bit low. At the very next moment, an abrupt change occurred. Four swords abruptly manifested around Gu Qingshan's body. They all gave off vigorous sword chi and spoke. Gu Qingshan, watch out. Gu Qingshan had already noticed that something was amiss. He felt as if there was a mountain weighing down on his heart, a boundless shadow gripping his throat, preventing him from saying a single complete sentence. This feeling. What exactly is it? The Great Flood shouldn't have arrived yet. His mind was quickly turning as he released his inner sight to observe his surroundings. The big shot's expressions also changed. They drew their weapons and looked around in confusion. But nothing happened around them. Who's a divination? A combatant shouted. Everyone turned to look at Crow, only to see that Crow was kneeling on the ground with his head propped up against the ground, his body trembling uncontrollably. Gu Qingshan rushed forward to support him, asking in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Crow trembled. "I don't know, it's like I have an intense feeling. I have to." He spat out a mouthful of blood, then pushed Gu Qingshan away. A second later, his body hovered in midair, his eyes turning white as he uttered a desperate scream. Gu Qingshan panicked and wanted to fly up to grab Crow. Fei Yu pulled him back and quickly retreated, saying, "Don't touch him. He's currently in a divination state." Gu Qingshan turned to Crow. While hovering in midair, Crow suddenly shouted with a high-pitched voice, "Watch out! The omen of the Great Flood has arrived. This is the first wave of the unlivable apocalypse. It represents the absolute destruction of all things." Everyone's hearts tightened. Without waiting for them to react, a gust of wind suddenly blew past. The entire City Lord's manor was blown away by the wind. Every structure in Void City was also reduced to nothing by the wind. Everyone couldn't help but hover in the endless void. With just a gust of wind, all matter was gone. "My God, so many of our guild's large-scale war machines are gone," the Hitman Guild's master exclaimed. The ominous Demon Tower's master also spoke in a heavy voice. The entire ominous Demon Tower was a war machine, but it was also erased. Everyone looked around, but couldn't find a single tile or brick left in the void of space. This was only a small wave of the Great Flood. "Terrifying," someone muttered. Gu Qingshan also fell silent. He had seen many apocalypses, but never one as terrifying as this one. Damn it, if a single wave was this powerful, then this apocalypse truly wasn't something that living beings could deal with. Gu Qingshan released her inner sight to observe their surroundings, only to see that the formation that trapped Void City was still there. "Life Talisman," Gu Qingshan muttered, then flew in front of the final wraith. He placed his hand in between the other party's eyebrows, closed his eyes, discarded all distracting thoughts, and silently searched for the method to deconstruct life talismans. In just a few breaths' worth of time, he managed to access the other party's memories. These memories were all of a normal cultivator's life, depicting the scenes of the Wraith realm. Gu Qingshan had also searched the Wraith soul before, so the memories of this Wraith were the same as the one she had searched before. But this time, Gu Qingshan had grasped the top-notch deconstructing method of life talismans, so he noticed something strange. Strange, this doesn't seem to be a real memory, but rather an illusion created from a talisman technique to confuse cultivation-type enemies. He held the Wraith's head with one hand, while drawing several mystical runes in the air with the other. A few moments later, the runes were completed. Illusory, dispelling life talisman. Instantly, all the scenes in the Wraith's memories disappeared. So it really was an illusion created from a talisman technique. Gu Qingshan was shocked. The Wraiths were truly sly. They were originally cultivation-type entities, but to avoid having their souls searched by other cultivators, they used life talismans to create illusions in an attempt to conceal the true secret of the Wraith realm. If Gu Qingshan didn't understand life talismans, she would have been deceived. Seems like this illusion was used to protect the Wraith's lives, as well as mislead soul searchers. This is indeed a good way to deal with powerful cultivation-type enemies. Good, good. Good. So what I obtained from soul-searching before were all illusions. How impressive. Gu Shan muttered, calmed himself down, and continued to search. He had now broken through the life talisman's illusions and was about to reach the life talisman itself. While he was focused on deciphering the life talisman, something else had happened in the battlefield. Crow was still hovering in the air, his hand covering his mouth, ignoring the blood that was gushing out from his mouth as he shouted with a hoarse voice. The early fluctuations of this great flood can destroy all things, but against living beings, I can't predict its power. Be careful, it's not over yet. As soon as he said so, everyone could only see their surroundings turning into a pure white void. The space vortex was nowhere to be seen. At the edge of the faraway white world, something was drifting with the wind. Everyone cautiously responded. Seeing Gu Shan falling into thought, Buttercup flew next to him and assumed a defensive stance. A second later, a thin black shadow landed in front of everyone. It was a black snake. The snake coiled itself into a ball, hovering in the white void, then raised its head and hissed at everyone. No matter how you looked at it, this was a black snake that was hard to track down. How could such a thing exist? The Hitman Guild's master scowled. He casually unleashed an attack that struck the snake's body. At the very next moment, the black snake abruptly appeared on the Hitman Guild's master's body, opened its mouth, and vanished without a trace. Ayard, the Hitman Guild's master madly screamed. He looked around at everyone with a final bit of clarity left in his eyes. In the blink of an eye, this top-tier hitman made his final decision. He unleashed his full strength, and Fei Li and the others charged toward the myriad world soul, capturing and locking formation. Halfway there, the old man suddenly turned into a giant bird burning with green flames and crashed straight into the formation. Boom! He actually created a big hole in the myriad world's soul, capturing and life, locking grand array. The old man landed in the middle of the group of big shots that had defected to the wraiths. Woo 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 woo. Ah, CSI. Around him, everyone was shouting crazily. They were all crazy. Chapter 1465. Also, there's no problem with the storyline. Since I can't spoil anything, I can only say that the story of the Infinite Worlds takes place in an apocalypse era that we can't understand. Even the reality gate is only an insignificant existence. In fact, the story is still slowly unfolding, and many things may only be understood after a large part of the storyline is over. The events and history of the other world, as well as the changing present and the uncertain future. So, please continue to watch the next part. I guarantee that you won't know what it will be like. Love you. Also, the weather is too hot. I'm tired from the business trip. I want a hug. Rarely seen leave slip in World's Apocalypse Online. Currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1466. Gu Shan didn't pay any attention to what was happening, as Buttercup stood next to him, for swords also manifested from the void of space to protect him. With this level of protection, he temporarily stopped paying attention to the outside world and instead focused his attention on the Wraith's thoughts sea, trying his best to decipher the soul-reaping life talisman in his mind. The world was blown away by the wind, turning into an empty void of space. Following that, the Hitman Guild's master broke through the formation and fell into the midst of the enemies, causing everyone to go insane without affecting Gu Shan at all. But the others weren't the same. A golden glow appeared on Fei Yu's father, Hong Iju's body. "Get out of my way," he shouted, took out a life talisman from his sleeve, and tossed it forward. The life talisman turned into a flash of light and was quickly burned away. Bam, 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 bam. After a series of explosions, the heads of the big shots who had gone insane all exploded and died. There weren't many people left. A few moments later, the Void Library's librarian rushed forward, grabbed Hong Iju's collar, and angrily shouted, "Hong Iju, we clearly have a formation. Why do we still suffer? such casualties. Hong Yi-ju coldly looked at him and replied, "He has the power of the unlivable apocalypse on him. No formation can stop him. Furthermore, do you also want to die?" The big shot awkwardly pulled his hand back and slowly retreated. The Hunter Guild's master's gaze was blank as he looked at the headless corpses around him. "Dead. They're all dead," he muttered in a low voice. Originally, he thought that by relying on the Old City Lord and the Wraith Realm support, he would be able to easily take down the other side. But instead, he suffered heavy casualties on his side. If he wasn't standing a bit further away, Hong Yi-ju might have also detonated the life talisman in his soul. This is the result of relying on the Wraiths. The Wraiths are actually using us as cannon fodder, aren't they? Laughable. How laughable. The Hunter Guild's master suddenly felt a strong sense of regret. Hong Yi-ju breathed heavily, then abruptly turned to the void of space and shouted at Fei Yu, "Daughter, do you still not understand? Do you want everyone to die here before you agree to marry the evil spirit?" Fei Yu looked at the scene outside of Void City through the screen of light and muttered, "That's impossible. There are so many combatants of the Void, yet the Wraiths don't care at all." Hong Yi-ju laughed coldly and said, "Expert, we are indeed not bad, but how do you know the truth of this world?" Fei Yu paused. She looked at Hong Yi-ju and saw a flash of fear on his face. He was afraid. What was he afraid of? For the first time, Fei Yu felt uncertain. The situation was too strange, and ordinary people simply had no idea what was going on. The blind nun stood beside Fei Yu and said in a low voice, "It seems that the problem is beyond our imagination. Fei Yu, can you tell us what else we don't know? Perhaps I can help you find the root of the problem with my spiritual insight technique." While she spoke, an open eye manifested above her head, staring at the void of space. Two streams of blood flowed down from her closed eyes. At this point, the blind nun couldn't be bothered to conserve her power and fully unleashed her spiritual insight technique that transcended space-time. Seeing that, Fei Yu explained, "Before my mother died, she used her soul to place a fate shackle on me. Unless I'm truly married, anyone who tries to force me to use the power of fate or take away my fate ability will die with me." The blind nun was surprised and asked, "How did that happen?" Fei Yu blankly replied, "Because she couldn't win against those enemies, so she could only use this method to temporarily provide me with a bit of safety." The blind nun went silent for a brief moment, then said, "I understand. The Wraiths desire this power of yours. They must need your fate ability to accomplish something that no one else can accomplish. Only your fate ability can accomplish." Everyone was shocked and couldn't help but turn to the blind nun. The blind nun wiped the blood from the corner of her eye and continued, "After so many years, the Wraiths had already lost their patience. They sent your father to you in order to force you to make a final choice." Fei Yu didn't say anything. From the looks of it, she already knew everything. The ominous Demon Tower's master couldn't help but ask, "What choice?" The blind nun replied, "Either let everything in Void City be destroyed, allowing Fei Yu to see her father and everyone else die in front of her with her own eyes. What else? Or Fei Yu immediately marry them and use her fate ability to help the Wraith Realm. Only then would the Wraiths spare the remaining people here." Everyone went silent. At this point, everyone finally understood the Wraith's intentions. They wanted Fei Yu to see the destruction of Void City that her father and everything he had built up. How cruel and merciless would that be? But this was the Wraith's ultimatum. They wanted to force Fei Yu to make a final choice. The blind nun appeared sorrowful and continued, "If they can't obtain Fei Yu, the Wraiths would rather her die than allow her power to be used by others." The nun lightly held Fei Yu's shoulder and said, "Child, you've suffered suddenly." Within the boundless emptiness, two more small black dots appeared. The two black dots only took a split second to land in front of everyone's eyes. One of them landed in front of the 50-meter tall man wielding the greatsword. The other landed in front of a beast-headed combatant standing next to the man. As everyone looked closely, they saw that the two black dots on the greatsword were slowly unfolding, turning into tiny blue snakes. Although this blue snake was smaller than the black snake from before, it had 5 heads. The man wielding the greatsword couldn't help but ask, "A strange snake?" The beast-headed combatant next to him also couldn't help but ask, "Why would such a thing appear?" The man's body didn't move, but the greatsword on his shoulder had already left an afterimage. The beast-headed combatant also casually swung his greatsword. As soon as the 2 blue snakes were struck, they disappeared. At the very next moment, the small snakes appeared on their bodies, opened their mouths to bite them, then disappeared without a trace. An indescribable sense of terror descended. "Damn it!" The man abruptly regained his senses and shouted in regret. "Yeah, Ash," the beast-headed combatant howled in frenzy. "He's insane." Seeing that, the man's eyes displayed the resolve to die, abruptly threw his blade away and hugged the beast-headed combatant tightly. "Everyone, farewell," the man shouted. At the very next moment, the 2 of them flashed and disappeared from everyone's eyes. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Before everyone could react, the 2 of them had already been bitten and disappeared. The blind nun gave off a sorrowful air and muttered, "They, in order to not infect us with death and madness, they have already died. Where did Crackblade take the tree beast to?" The ominous Demon Tower's master asked. Feiyu took out a glowing rock. The light on the rock slowly faded, then abruptly broke apart. Crackblade had his own world. Feiyu looked at the rock and said without changing her expression, "Just now, that world was destroyed." Everyone went silent. A single sign of the Great Flood had killed 2 combatants, as well as an entire world. The blind nun took out a snow-white handkerchief and lightly wiped the blood from the corner of her eyes. Her eyebrows were scrunched up, as if she was enduring some sort of pain. Everyone heard her say, "I've noticed a few things about this apocalypse. It uses the power of causality as a trigger. As long as it falls within a certain range of us, it will trigger the law of causality and urge us to attack it, causing us to fall into madness," a male voice replied. "That's not the case." Everyone turned to see that it was Crow. His eyes were bloodshot as he spoke. "You've all forgotten. This is only a sign of the Great Flood, an early fluctuation of the unlivable apocalypse. When it truly erupts, it won't be this week." "You call this week?" Everyone had the same thought in their minds. But what they couldn't deny was that this was indeed only a sign of the Great Flood. The Wraiths were able to control the Great Flood. If they could even control the apocalypse, what else couldn't the Wraiths do? Which of the countless worlds in the void would dare to go against them? Everyone slowly fell into despair. On the screen, Hong Iju opened his eyes wide, staring at Feiyu and loudly shouted, "Daughter, do you still not understand? This is an irresistible power. My daughter, I no longer have a second death exemption talisman." Hong Iju shouted at the top of his lungs. "You're only working for the Wraiths. Can't you even understand that? Do you want us all to die in this apocalypse?" Feiyu coldly replied, "Mother had already foreseen the outcome of me working for the Wraiths. You should know very well what that is." Outcome. Everyone heard Hong Iju's weak voice filled with suppressed emotions. "Regardless of the outcome, as long as I can live for one more day, enjoying myself as a Wraith for one more day, it's better than dying right away." He threw the talisman in his hand away with an ashen expression. "I've enjoyed a lot over the years, but all of that came with a price. I have to marry you to the Wraiths. If I can't do that, the Wraiths will definitely take my life. This is your final chance, daughter, whether everyone dies together or live for one more day and become the mistress of the Wraith realm with authority. It's all up to you. Even if you hate me, you can't just watch as everyone in Void City dies in this apocalypse." Feiyu's body trembled slightly. Void City, she clenched her fists tightly and gritted her teeth. In the past, Mother was able to fight against the Wraiths for an entire day without losing, but you still refused to lead Void City against the Wraiths. Father, you were once a renowned combatant of the Void, so why didn't you have even a hint of resistance? Was it because you already knew that the Wraiths had an unlivable apocalypse? She loudly questioned him. Hong Yiju was a bit surprised, then suddenly displayed a strange expression. In front of everyone, he opened his mouth, slowly closed it, then abruptly opened it again. This scene was a bit comical, but Hong Iju's expression was full of despair His heavy breathing didn't seem to be comical at all. It was as if there was something he couldn't say that got stuck in his throat. Seeing that, Fei was a bit confused. Everyone else was also confused. Regardless of whether it was true or not, couldn't he have just said it? If the old city lord had truly succumbed to the Wraith's hidden strength, he would only be helping the Wraiths to intimidate everyone without causing any other consequences. So, why does Hong Yiju look like he wants to say something? The blind nun suddenly said. As a combatant of the void, he's currently terrified to the extreme. This caused everyone to fall silent. Everyone turned to the old city lord, only to see that his entire body was trembling. For now, both sides fell into a strange stalemate. What exactly is a combatant of this level afraid of? Facing this situation, what choice would Fei Yu make? Everyone's minds were in turmoil, so they couldn't help but retract their gazes and look at Fei Yu. At this point, at this crucial moment, the only person who wasn't paying attention to Fei Yu was a single person, Gu Qingshan. If Gu Qingshan had been paying close attention to the situation, he might have noticed something from Hong Yiju's reaction just now. This had nothing to do with thaumaturgy or power. In fact, Gu Qingshan had been fighting against the Wraiths in many worlds, so he'd seen the Huang Quan fragment that the Wraiths had taken in, as well as a divine skill like lead the people. He also knew that the Wraiths had schemed for countless years to enter the inner plane. He had fought against Song Wuzhong, faced off against Red Wraith in the Saint Spirit world, and even witnessed the Wraith Lord fighting against the Eternal Abyss through the power of the sacrificial dance, only to be forced to flee. If Gu Qingshan could see Hong Yiju's subtle expression and focus on thinking about these things, she might even be able to think of something inconceivable. But Gu Qingshan was still in a state of oblivion. His eyes were closed, fully focused on deconstructing that life talisman. Because of that, everyone could only see a streak of flame flying towards Hong Yiju from afar. Hong Yiju received the talisman with a bitter smile on his face. What authority, what treasure, what bullshit power. They're all nothing but dim fireflies that can't compete with the radiance of the moon. And now we're all about to face our final fate. He shook the talisman a bit, then infused it with his power. The talisman abruptly glowed. An old voice resounded from the talisman. City Lord Fei Yu, we acknowledge your power, as long as you serve the Wraith Realm. Everything is negotiable. We've waited for you for a long time, and now we can't wait any longer, because something is indeed about to happen. We cannot allow your power to exist outside the Wraith Realm. We hope you can understand, in consideration of the deep bond between you and your daughter. I'll give you one last incense stick's worth of time. After one incense stick's worth of time, you will either get married or face the unlivable apocalypse. City Lord Fei Yu, I hope you will make a wise choice. The talisman turned into flames and quickly burned away. Silence. Within the void of space, the remaining combatants were completely silent. Fei Yu's gaze passed through each and every one of them. The entirety of Void City is about to be destroyed, and the only outcome for everyone here is death. Countless years of preparation, only to end up like this? Fei Yu wiped the corner of her eyes. She took a deep breath, then resolutely said, I would rather. Suddenly, a voice cut her off. A lot seems to have happened. Fei Yu, dispel your fate technique first. Gu Qingshan opened her eyes and shouted in a low voice. Bookseller's House website. Chapter 1467. Hearing that, Fei Yu muttered something in a low voice. The image in the air completely disappeared. Hong Yiju was no longer able to see their situation. It's been dispelled. Fei Yu looked at Gu Qingshan, as if hoping for something. Gu Qingshan said, Good, everyone, use all concealment techniques you can. Don't let anyone notice our situation here. Hearing that, the other big shots became spirited. Seems like it's going to work. Everyone quickly used their means to completely seal off the empty space around them. Gu Qingshan looked at everyone's anxious expressions and shook his head. Don't place too much hope on me. I've only managed to do something insignificant. I'll tell you now. Let's see if anyone has any ideas everyone's expressions didn't change and continued to stare at him. Buttercup suddenly said, "We only have 1 incense stick's worth of time. Hurry up if you want to do something, otherwise there won't be enough time." 1 incense stick's worth of time? That's a bit better than I thought. Gu Shan looked at the void of space and said, "Shanu, take a look at this area of space. Are there any techniques that we don't know of that can be dispelled?" "Adorable. Take a look and see if there are any entities other than us that have unleashed any abilities." "None show." Two voices responded. Gu Shan finally felt a bit more assured and sent his voice to everyone. "I once fought against the Wraiths in the Saint Spirit world and learned a few of their talisman creation techniques, and now I have a basic understanding of the soul-reaping life talisman structure. It doesn't seem to be as simple as capturing the soul. What other uses does that talisman have?" Fei Yu asked. Gu Shan replied, "I'm not sure what other uses this talisman has, so I'll try to create one right now. This might be our only chance at survival. Please take a look at it together." He reached his hand out and wrote something in the air, just like what Red Wraith did in the Saint Spirit world. Everyone's gazes followed his movements, wanting to see what he was trying to do. Gu Shan's hand moved like blurred images as he finished drawing the talisman in the air. He then clapped his hand towards the void of space. The mystical talisman froze in the air and gave off unusual fluctuations. The talisman was completed. Gu Shan explained, "This is a soul-reaping life talisman. It didn't originate from the Wraith realm, but was drawn by me. It's a bit different from the Wraith's soul-reaping life talisman. It doesn't contain anyone's soul." As soon as he finished speaking, a flame suddenly flew out of the void. No one knew where the fire came from, but it suddenly appeared in front of Gu Shan. The flames faded, revealing a talisman. Another rune. The talisman stopped next to the life talisman drawn by Gu Shan, glowing with a bright red light. Everyone looked at each other. Just now, when Gu Shan drew a life talisman, it immediately attracted another talisman. What was going on? The eye on top of the blind nun's head stared at the talisman, sizing it up. She said, "Dragon King, you have to deconstruct this talisman. Otherwise, we still don't know anything." Gu Shan stared closely at the runes on the talisman, slowly deconstructing the meaning it contained. If one were to judge it with the cultivation world's knowledge, this talisman was similar to a communication talisman. Gu Shan lightly tapped the blood-red talisman. A line of questioning appeared in his mind, frowny face, "Currently searching for your identity. Unable to find the corresponding identity. Please prove your identity within 5 breaths worth of time. Otherwise, erasure will be activated." Gu Shan told everyone. "This talisman will allow me to prove my identity within 5 breaths worth of time. Otherwise, it will kill me. 5 breaths worth of time." The blind nun immediately said, "It seems you'll need to prove that you're a wraith." "I thought so as well," Fei Yu replied. All of a sudden, a black dot flew in from afar from the boundless void of pure white, landing directly in front of Gu Shan's feet. This was a wriggling black dot with glowing black scales that were expanding at an extremely slow pace. Looking at this black dot, Gu Shan suddenly had a thought. "What is this? Why didn't I kill this thing?" As soon as this thought appeared, it filled up Gu Shan's mind like an overgrown weed. Everyone's expressions changed. It turns out the apocalypse will act and directly kill Dragon King of Atrocity Jail in 5 breaths worth of time. Buttercup suddenly shouted, "Be careful. This is a sliver of the unlivable apocalypse's power. You need to think of something quickly." "Got it," Gu Shan quickly replied. He knew that this was a crucial moment of life and death, so he forced himself to temporarily ignore the thought of attacking the black dot. "I need to prove that I'm a wraith. How can I do that?" While Gu Shan was thinking, Fei took a step forward and tossed out numerous black threads with both hands. These threads connected Gu Shan and the wraith together. The ominous Demon Tower's master also quickly stepped forward, holding down Gu Shan with one hand and the wraith with the other. He abruptly turned into a giant blood vessel that connected Gu Shan and the wraith together. Fei Yu shouted, "With your death, I will disguise fate." The ominous Demon Tower's master also chanted, "Twins in one body." They seemed to have triggered some sort of power within themselves. but the black dot on the ground was still slowly expanding. The third breath. There's not enough time. The eye on top of the blind nun's head fully opened, staring at the talisman in front of Guqing Shan. She hurriedly told him, Dragon King, Fei Yu and the Tower's Master are trying to turn you into that wraith. But this isn't enough. You need to take away the life talisman inside that wraith's body right before he dies in order to deceive them. One breath left. Guqing Shan didn't have time to respond and quickly drew a talisman between the wraith's eyebrows. This was a talisman technique that he learned from Red Wraith, specifically used to take away other people's life talismans. This life talisman was a method that the Wraith leaders used to directly issue orders before a large-scale mission. They would directly take away everyone's life talisman and write the mission into it. Take! Guqing Shan abruptly shouted. A life talisman flew out from between the Wraith's eyebrows and landed in Guqing Shan's hand. As Guqing Shan held the life talisman in his hand, he felt a sense of familiarity and obedience. With the power of Fei Yu and the ominous Demon Tower's master, he was currently the Wraith, an extension of the Wraith's body, so the life talisman didn't resist at all. Guqing Shan held the life talisman tightly and put it into his thought sea. 5 breaths were over. Time was up. The blood-colored talisman in front of Guqing Shan abruptly scattered into a bloody light that enveloped him. A stern voice resounded, frowny face, identity approved. Your mission is to cooperate with the angel to eliminate any suspicious personnel. Your mission has failed. You will return in 10 breaths' time to receive your punishment. 10 breaths' time. Time is so tight. Guqing Shan looked at everyone and immediately said, I'm going to be transported away. What about you? Everyone went silent. Who would have thought that the situation would take such a drastic turn for the worse? Only Guqing Shan would be able to escape from the Great Flood Apocalypse. Not to mention, he might not necessarily be able to escape, because in the Wraith realm, there would definitely be corresponding personnel waiting for him to punish him for failing the mission. His situation was still extremely dangerous, but everyone was about to die in the Great Flood Apocalypse. Fei Yu sighed and said, Let's just die together. No. Fei Yu, you have to get married first. Guqing Shan suddenly cut her off. Fei Yu raised her eyebrows and resolutely said, I definitely won't. Guqing Shan cut her off again and said, Fei Yu, do you remember? What were you preparing for before? Fei Yu was a bit startled, then her eyes suddenly glowed brightly. Originally, they wanted to completely conquer the Wraith realm, but before they could even do so, the unlivable apocalypse had already destroyed Void City. But the preparations they made beforehand were still there. This was their only chance of survival. So that's what happened. I have a solution. Fei Yu turned to everyone and loudly declared. Everyone turned to her at once. Everyone, use the spells and techniques I told you to prepare earlier. We're going to turn Crow into me. Fei Yu spoke faster and continued. We're going to follow the invasion plan from before. We're going to follow Crow's entourage to the Wraith realm. That way, we'll be able to avoid the unlivable apocalypse. Everyone was overjoyed. As long as we don't have to face an unlivable apocalypse, there's nothing to be afraid of. Everyone here were top-notch combatants of the space vortex, so even if they had to face a Wraith Lord head-on, they wouldn't necessarily lose. Then what about Guqing Shan? Buttercup asked. The blind nun replied. The Wraith realm is extremely mysterious. There are countless causality laws that isolate it from the outside world. The Dragon King is the only one among us who has a Wraith life talisman. Once we arrive at the Wraith realm, we must find him to have a chance to escape or fight against the Wraiths, Fei Yu said. I'll wrap my fate threads around him. That way, we'll be able to call each other. She drew several black threads from the void of space and wrapped them around Guqing Shan's arm in a few moments. Time's up. Everyone, we'll meet again in the Wraith realm. After saying so, Guqing Shan vanished without a trace. He had already gone to the Wraith realm. Everyone pulled their gazes back to Crow. And now, the key to everything lies with Crow. Fei Yu spoke with a serious expression. Crow, your previous disguise as me was already very impressive, able to pass for the real one. The only downside is that whenever you get too focused, you'll appear very seductive. You must be careful about this in front of everyone. Crow subconsciously stroked his bangs, swaying his hips a bit. Don't worry, I'll be careful. The bookseller's house website. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.